Welcome to the fantasy audiobook. I got Saitama's physique and started to hunt down red hair pirates. Chapter 1. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Akainu's office was filled with angry roars. What? Luo Jia left his post again and went to New World alone to hunt down the red-haired man. Yes, Luo Jia Vice Admiral has been on the road for 2 hours. A rear admiral answered tremblingly in the face of the furious Akainu. This fool is the borer of our marine. Akainu suppressed his anger and spoke in a very gloomy tone. Akainu had no way to deal with Luo Jia, a powerful but disobedient thorn. Just like Sengoku couldn't move Garp, Akainu couldn't move Luo Jia, his subordinate. And in a way, the relationship between Akainu and Luo Jia was worse than that between Sengoku and Garp. Because they had had more than one conflict in the past few years. If Sengoku hadn't suppressed him every time, Akainu would have wanted to take action against Luo Jia. This time, the other party's absence from duty finally made Akainu unable to tolerate it. He decided to personally lead the troops to handcuff Luo Jia back, and then expel him from the marine, and preferably throw him to impel down. But at this moment, Kizaru came in from outside with a hint of dissuasion in his tone. Sakazuki, don't be impulsive. Don't forget how pervert Luo Jia is. It's not good to offend him like this. Kizaru is also very troubled by people like Luo Jia who do their own thing. Usually, his relationship with Luo Jia is not very bad, but it is definitely not good. Whenever he thinks of his miserable night, Kizaru has a fear of being dominated by brother Jia. Out of fear of Luo Jia and concern for his good friend Sakazuki, Kizaru feels that he has an obligation to mediate the conflict between the two parties. Otherwise, Akainu really chases Luo Jia in anger, and Kizaru is really worried that Akainu will never come back. Borsellino, you are also speaking for Luo Jia, that fool. Akainu's face became more and more gloomy, and his tone became more and more stern. No. This is a just statement. I am speaking for justice, and I will never favor anyone. After all, there should be a little room for everything. Although Luo Jia violated military discipline this time, he is not guilty of this. Besides, you are his superior, and it is even more inconvenient for you to come forward in this matter, lest someone say that you took the opportunity to retaliate, which would not sound good if it were spread out. Why don't I come forward on your behalf and go to Luo Jia to negotiate this matter, and as for Sakazuki, you just wait for good news at the headquarters, what do you think? Kizaru rarely gave a pertinent suggestion and solution. Humph, I will give you another face this time. Akainu weighed it for a moment, and finally adopted Kizaru's suggestion. To be honest, he was also quite afraid of Luo Jia. Although they had never fought, Luo Jia's terrifying record was there after all. During Luo Jia's tenure, I don't know how many vicious pirate groups he wiped out. Moreover, even the 4 emperors' red hair is now being chased around the world by him. It is incredible that one of the 4 emperors is scared to run away every time he meets Luo Jia. Therefore, this also makes Luo Jia's reputation in the middle and lower level marines quite high, and he cannot be easily moved. Since Kizaru gave him a way out, Akainu had to follow this way. It is not a wise move to fall out with Luo Jia at this stage. In this way, Kizaru led a warship to New World and searched for Luo Jia's traces all over the world. At the same time, somewhere in the Sea of New World, Luo Jia put down the photo album in his hand and asked Hina beside him, Hina, how far is it from the position of red hair? Humph, Luo Jia Vice Admiral, I advise you to pay attention to some influences. Reading these bad publications all day long is simply damaging the glorious image of our marines. Hina snorted coldly, obviously dissatisfied with Luo Jia's style. Haha, I just like to see Hina-chan angry, very charming. Luo Jia put away the photo album without leaving any trace, with a sunny smile on his face. However, in Hina's eyes, Luo Jia's smile was vulgar. Humph, we are almost at the red-haired territory. After Hina finished her report, she rolled her eyes at Luo Jia and left. Still so cute. Seeing Hina's arrogant look, Luo Jia couldn't help but sigh. Then he opened the photo album again, with a smile on his face. Unknowingly, another half a day had passed. The warship that Luo Jia was on finally arrived at the location of the red-haired Shanks. The fact that the four emperors red-haired was being hunted by Luogia all over the world is now the focus of everyone's attention, attracting the attention of countless people all over the world. Almost all the major forces have focused on it, and they all want to see the final development of the situation. Is the four emperors red-haired stronger, or is Luogia, the almost invincible vice-admiral, stronger? Everyone secretly guessed and waited and saw. On the other side, Luogia had a smooth journey, and even a ship came to lead the way, as if he had received orders long ago. Luogia closed the photo album, and for the first time, a serious expression appeared on his face. He came to the deck of the warship and looked at a large island in the distance. The warship passed by the Dreyfus and soon arrived at the large island. At this moment, the red-haired Shanks was on this large island, waiting for Luogia's arrival. What will happen in this century collision? Countless forces secretly watched this scene, and their hearts were already filled with anticipation. Hina did not board the island, but chose to stay and guard the warship. After all, her position and strength did not allow her to be as reckless as Luogia. After Luogia got off the warship, he stepped onto the large island and walked towards the central area. At this time, on the large island and around the island, there were countless forces paying attention to Luogia, but none of them dared to step forward. After all, Luogia had made a great reputation in the years he served as a marine. In a way, he was more frightening to the pirates than the three admirals. Looking at Luogia, who was like a handsome young man, all the red-hair pirates swallowed their saliva subconsciously and stepped back a few steps in fear. There is no way, they have been scared by Luogia for these years. This situation is more terrible than Garp chasing Roger all over the world, and it will make them collapse. After all, the strength of Pirate King Roger and Hero Garp is not much different. So during the pursuit, both parties are full of passion. But they are different. The difference in strength between them and Luogia is like an insurmountable chasm. How can they be passionate? It is this man. He has been chasing us for 2 years. We don't know how he survived at the beginning. Seeing Luogia approaching step by step, the people of Red Hair Pirates retreated step by step. Although Luogia does not have Conqueror's haki, he is more terrible than Conquerors. Wherever he goes, there will be disaster. Luogia ignored this group of scum and soon came to the central area. Almost all the senior cadres of Red Hair Pirates stood here, waiting for battle. Boss, he is coming. I know. The red-haired man stood up slowly, his face more solemn than ever. The Red Hair Pirates cadres looked at Luogia with deep solemnity. They had been hunted by this man for 2 years, so they knew how terrifying he was. It was no exaggeration to say that even if all of them rushed forward, they might not be able to do anything to him. If they hadn't been so exhausted from being hunted, they wouldn't have chosen to confront him on this island. But even if they had made up their minds to confront him, they were still extremely nervous when facing Luogia. However, they were all very determined people, so no one backed off. Of course, no one dared to step forward to stop him. Luogia glanced at the crowd and could recognize some of the better characters. In the 2 years that he had been hunting the Red Hair Pirates, these few people had performed quite well and were worth remembering by Luogia. Luogia paused when his eyes fell on Red Shanks. At this moment, countless eyes were focused on Luogia. Even the Red Hair Pirates felt an invisible pressure and didn't even dare to breathe. Hey, isn't this the red-haired guy? I haven't seen him for a few days, and he's so sluggish. Luogia crossed his arms and teased the red-haired guy. Luogia, the red-haired guy growled, and a terrifying Conqueror's haki burst out of his body. The entire island rumbled in front of this haki, and the ground cracked. However, this haki did not affect anyone present. Instead, it precisely locked onto Luogia alone, and all fell on him. The Conqueror's haki of the red-haired Shanks has always been recognized as the strongest on the sea. As one of the 4 emperors, the red-haired guy is often called the most haki, the most face-saving man. It is conceivable how terrifying the pressure he creates when he goes all out. At this moment, the cadres also became excited. The boss's gift is still so unique. You don't understand, this is the way the top strong men greet each other. I don't dare to understand, and I don't want to understand. Speaking of which, This man doesn't seem to have conquerors, and doesn't even know any hockey. You know nothing. This man is a monster among monsters, and it makes no difference to him whether he has hockey or not. A group of cadres shook their heads, their eyes flickering. Outside the island, countless investigators from various forces also saw this scene. The sky, which was originally covered with dark clouds, instantly cracked a gap when Red Hair released conquerors. This is the world's most hockey man, Red Hair. Have Red Hair and Luogia already started fighting? Countless people were shocked when they saw this scene through the broadcast screen. On the other side, and when Red Hair's conqueror's hockey fell on Luogia, it only made his cloak of justice flutter. Ha ha, Red Hair, your gift is really a needle-free gift, I like it. Luogia laughed heroically. He thought this welcome ceremony was very unique and he liked it very much. It seems that Red Hair, this old friend, still welcomes me. So, a strange scene appeared on the scene. A Marine completely ignored Conqueror's hockey, and looked at Red Hair with a smile, his eyes full of admiration. A Marine praised the pirate. The scene was so strange. But we are familiar with each other, but I still have to fulfill my duties. After saying that, Luogia took a step forward. Boom. In an instant, the ground within a radius of 100 meters sank directly. A pressure squeezed out by pure power instantly dispersed the red-haired conquerors. The moment they felt this power, the faces of the red-haired pirates changed all of a sudden. They did not show any shocked expressions, but collectively showed an expression of fear. Although the red-haired conquerors were very strong, they were eventually suppressed by Luogia's invincible power. The void was filled with countless purple-black lightning, countless stones and sand were suspended in the air, and the island ground gradually cracked. At this moment, even ordinary people can feel a kind of oppressive pressure to the ultimate. When the two pressures collided, the red-haired man's mind suddenly tightened. No one can understand how great the pressure on the red-haired man is at this time. Although the body will not be injured in the confrontation of momentum, the damage to the mental level is even greater. And the red-haired man was also extremely shocked. He knew that Luogia was very strong, but he didn't expect that the other party would surpass him without conquerors, just by his own pressure. This pressure is so strong that it directly acts on the body and mind, even stronger than his Captain Roger. This guy is really a monster. Sometimes just by the collision of momentum, the red-haired man can understand what kind of person the other person is. At least the red-haired man felt only the absolute power that surpassed everything on Luogia. If this is not a monster, who is it? A few breaths passed. The red-haired conqueror's hockey collapsed under the pressure of Luogia. Even with the strongest hockey in the world, the red-haired pirates could not compete with Luogia. In fact, this is normal. After all, Luogia has broken the body limiter and his strength has reached another dimension. Seeing this scene, the cadres of the red-haired pirates present secretly said that it was not good. But he could not support at all, or should be said to be unqualified to support. Strong is strong, weak is weak. It is fully demonstrated at this moment. After the red-haired hockey collapsed, the world finally returned to peace. Luogia also restrained his strength and did not continue to exert force, but retracted it as soon as he exerted it. At this time, there was a silence in the field. Countless people's eyes fell on the two of them. Their faces were solemn and their throats rolled. If it is said that Luogia also used conquerors to suppress the red-haired. Although everyone was shocked, they also felt that it was reasonable. Because this man's strength is as strong as a monster after all. However, just relying on pure force to squeeze the air is better than the red-haired conquerors. This really made everyone a little confused. Because in this sea, conquerors' hockey is already recognized as the strongest force. No matter what devil fruit, what armament hockey, observation hockey, in terms of power level, none of them are the opponent of conquerors. And the red-haired conquerors is recognized as the strongest in the sea. But now, it was suppressed by someone with pure force. Surpassing the red-haired conquerors, the pure force represented by this thing is really creepy. This kind of person is a monster. Ha ha ha. At this time, the red-haired, who had been silent all the time, suddenly laughed up to the sky. And at the same time as the red-haired laughed, Luogia also suddenly laughed heroically. The laughter of the two people met, and the solemn atmosphere suddenly eased. Ha ha ha, Luo Jia, you are such a monster. You can even defeat my conqueror's haki easily. Awesome, I admire you. The red-haired man didn't care about his failure at all. He looked at Luo Jia and raised a generous expression on his face. Let's have a drink before the fight. Okay. Feeling the sincerity of the red-haired man, Luo Jia readily agreed. Hearing this, the red-haired man's smile became even brighter. At the same time, he was more certain of his guess. A man like Luo Jia is not bound by the justice of a mere marine. People like Luo Jia do whatever they want and do their own thing. In this regard, he is more thorough than the hero Garp and has more autonomy. In addition, after dealing with Luo Jia for 2 years, the red-haired man gradually got to know the other party's character. Of course, what the red-haired man admired most was not the other party's invincible power, but a sense of loneliness. This is a sense of loneliness that transcends the world. Every time he thought of this, the red-haired man felt an indescribable touch. Perhaps, the other party was just a marine who was interested in it. The red-haired man shook his head and shook off the distracting thoughts in his mind. Then he carried a pot of wine and walked towards Luo Jia in the tense eyes of everyone. This is the fine wine I asked Rayleigh for. I promise it will taste good. If it doesn't taste good, then you can go to Rayleigh to settle the score, ha 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 ha. The red-haired man laughed heartily and handed over a cup. Red hair, it's too small, too small. Luo Jia saw the wine glass and shook his head in dissatisfaction. Then, in the surprised eyes of Red Hair, Luo Jia took out a pair of wine bowls as big as basins out of thin air. This scene, even the well-informed Red Hair pirates couldn't help but marvel. Is this a void creation? No. It should be the ability to store space. I didn't expect that Luo Jia, in addition to his invincible power, also has the ability to store space. The Red Hair pirates were amazed at Luo Jia again. In fact, they didn't know that this was not Luo Jia's ability. It was the space attached to the system, but it could only store some things. Of course, living things couldn't be stored in it. Looking at the enthusiastic Luo Jia and the heroic captain, the Red Hair pirates present all looked solemn. When the fight starts later, do you think the boss can win? Rockstar asked in a low voice. Boy, are you afraid that the boss will lose? Lucky Roo snorted coldly. Rock Das hurriedly shook his head and denied, Senior. I didn't mean that, but that guy is a monster after all. Monster. Our boss is also a monster. Usopp spoke confidently. Luo Jia has been hunting them for 2 years, so everyone knows how terrible the other party is. And according to the intelligence, they all agree that Luo Jia is a monster that can rival Whitebeard. Even stronger than Whitebeard. But in this sea, strength is not the only thing. In terms of comprehensive strength, Red Hair is not only a great swordsman, but also has the top conqueror's haki. Among the 4 emperors, Red Hair can definitely rank in the top 2. Another more critical point is that Red Hair is the youngest of the 4 emperors, but the one with the greatest potential. As he grows older, it is estimated that when Red Hair reaches about 50 years old, he will be able to sit firmly on the throne of the world's strongest. That's right, Luo Jia is very strong, but he may not be able to beat the boss. After all, our boss is a 4 emperors. Locta's eyes were shining, and he was instantly full of confidence in Red Hair. As for the vice captain of Red Hair pirates, Ben Beckman said nothing and bowed his head in contemplation. In the field, Luo Jia, you are not kind, you just show this unique skill now. Red Hair looked at the 2 large wine bowls that appeared out of thin air and was immediately amazed. You said it was a unique skill, how could I show it easily? What's more, it's just a mere space storage ability. As a 4 emperors, you can't have never encountered it, right? Luo Jia personally filled a large bowl for Red Hair and a large bowl for himself. I've heard of the ability of the space fruit, but I haven't seen it. Red Hair was not polite either, and picked up the large bowl with one hand and drank it. There are people on their ship who have the ability of the teleportation fruit, but they are only slightly related to space. Even if they only touched a little, relying on this ability, Red Hair and his friends escaped from Luo Jia many times. If they really couldn't stand the long-term pursuit, it would be difficult for Luo Jia to catch them. Thinking of this, Luo Jia showed a thoughtful look on his face. It seems that pestering is useful. This wine is good. After finishing a bowl, Luo Jia nodded with some satisfaction. Although he is more enthusiastic about drinks, he can also taste the quality of wine. After all, this is the world of pirates, adventure and fine wine are the main themes of this world. Haha, then I will accept your praise on behalf of Rayleigh. After taking a few gulps, Red Hair wiped the corners of his mouth and laughed heartily. The next moment, Luo Jia directly grabbed the wine pot and poured it down with his head tilted back. Good, even Red Hair applauded for that heroic gesture. After drinking the last drop of wine in the wine pot, Luo Jia threw the wine pot arrogantly, and the wine pot turned into countless glass fragments and scattered. This scene made Red Hair's eyes light up immediately. He knew that the real show was about to begin. Haha, drinking and fighting is a great pleasure in life. Red Hair, if you can beat me today, I will call you Big Brother. Luo Jia was drunk and actually made a promise to Red Hair. Hearing this, Red Hair grinned, haha. Hearing you say that, I must win this fight. I want to be your big brother and drive your warship. After speaking, Red Hair drew out the famous sword Griffin, his eyes filled with a fiery fighting spirit. For this big brother, Red Hair was going to risk it all. In fact, after being hunted by Luo Jia for so long, Red Hair had been holding back his anger and had long wanted to have a real fight with the other party. Now, he got what he wanted. Therefore, compared to Luo Jia who didn't care, Red Hair's fighting spirit was even stronger. Looking at this scene, everyone in the Red Hair Pirates looked solemn. It's finally about to begin. Everyone, step back. The aftermath of a battle of that level is no joke. Ben Beckman spoke in a deep voice, and led everyone to retreat to a farther place. In the field, the red-haired man boldly drew his sword. A terrifying black slash instantly split the earth in two. Luo Jia looked slightly drunk, and stretched out his hand to grab, instantly breaking the red-haired man's sword. The aftermath spread, and the earth collapsed piece by piece in an instant. What a terrible physical strength, I guess even Kaido can't beat him. Lucky Roo is also considered to be a relatively strong physical player among the Red Hair Pirates. But when he saw Luo Jia crush his boss's slash with his hands, he was also shocked. However, Shanks has not used Conqueror's entanglement yet, and the final outcome is still unknown. Ben Beckman looked a little solemn. Hearing this, everyone present breathed a sigh of relief. Yes, although Luo Jia blocked the boss's sword, but the boss's strongest Conqueror's entanglement has not been used yet, and the outcome is still unknown. At this moment, not only the Red Hair Pirates, but also various forces were alarmed. When they saw the earth-shaking movement on the island in the distance, they immediately became very alert. They are finally going to start. Will Red Hair successfully defend the majesty of the four emperors, or will Luo Jia Vice Admiral continue his invincible path? Wait and see. Countless people looked deep and excited. On the island, what a terrible physical skill. Pure physical strength can be cultivated to this level, you are really a monster. Seeing this scene, even Red Hair was amazed. Being able to practice pure physical skills to such an inhuman level, Luo Jia deserves the name of a monster. Haha, you are too kind, I can't get to where I am today without my hard training every day. If you are interested, I can teach you my training method. Luo Jia laughed proudly. Although he was very interested in Luo Jia's training plan, it was time to fight now, and everything had to be put aside for lousy. Red Hair took a deep breath and slashed at Luo Jia again. This knife was twice as powerful as before, enough to tear the sky and split the earth. It also contained the peerless edge of the great swordsman. Facing a strong enemy like Luo Jia, Red Hair would never hold back. Let alone him, no one in this world would dare to underestimate Luo Jia. Seeing the black slash that tore the earth, Luo Jia's eyes lit up and a hint of admiration appeared on his face. Ordinary splits. Luo Jia lightly waved his feet and immediately kicked out circles of gas explosion clouds. The black slash was finally kicked out by Luo Jia and exploded in front of him. The aftermath directly cut off the trees within a radius of 100 meters and the earth collapsed. This scene made everyone stunned for a moment. Kick the four emperors' Red Hair's slash. Is it so exaggerated? Oh my, this is really shocking. Seeing this scene, Red Hair was also stunned by this terrifying power on the spot. But he is four emperors' Red Hair after all. Not only was he not terrified, but his will became even more fierce. This is the four emperors' red hair who reigns over the sea. Luo Jia, I'm going to go all out next time, I hope you don't die then. Red hair grinned, and Griffin's blade instantly turned black and red, like a red-hot iron. Conqueror's entanglement plus armament hockey emission. At this moment, his swordsmanship stood at the top of the world, and hockey also stood at the top of the world. God avoid. Red hair swung his sword and slashed out a black and red half-moon slash. This sword cut through the sky, as if tearing apart space and time. Ha ha ha, that's interesting. Among the pirates I have met so far, I would like to call you the strongest, Red Hair. Facing this amazing sword, even Luo Jia, who is invincible, couldn't help but show deep admiration. Ordinary punch. The center of the collision of the two forces was shining like a sun. Crack, crack. However, what is terrifying is that Red Hair's full-strength sword was actually smashed by Luo Jia's punch. An invisible shock wave exploded to both sides, creating a gully behind the red-haired man. Moreover, it spread all the way to the sea, blowing up a nearby island. Nani, what kind of power is this? Is this still a human? Countless people stared out of their eyes when they saw this scene. This is too strong. Such a terrifying punch, the aftermath alone blew up the island. Moreover, everyone suspected that Luo Jia deliberately didn't hit the red-haired man. Otherwise, based on the aftermath of the punch just now, the red-haired man would be seriously injured if not dead. This guy's power is even stronger than Whitebeard at his peak. He didn't really eat the space fruit, one of the 3 supreme devil fruits. Someone said in horror. In fact, the power displayed by Luo Jia was far beyond their understanding. To put it bluntly, they were scared. Oh, sorry, my hand slipped just now, I didn't scare you. Luo Jia spread his hands to show that he didn't mean it. Ha ha, scare me. Are you kidding? I'm super brave, okay. The red-haired man laughed dryly a few times and quickly wiped off the cold sweat. If the aftermath of the previous wave really hit him, his body might have exploded on the spot. However, the red-haired man did not show any fear on his face, but his momentum became more fierce. Since the long-range slash is ineffective, then he will attack at close range. The next moment, the red-haired man seemed to teleport and came to Luo Jia in an instant. I didn't see how the red-haired man swung his sword, but the entire void was instantly filled with countless slashes, blocking Luo Jia from all directions. However, although the red-haired man was fast, Luo Jia was even faster. Countless slashes passed through his body, cutting the earth into countless cubes. It was actually an afterimage. The red-haired man's pupils shrank, and his body dodged at an extremely fast speed. Under the shocked gaze of countless people, a fist gust of wind blew past, and half of the island was destroyed on the spot. He escaped another disaster, but the red-haired man was shivering all over. The opponent's strength was simply unreasonable. Not to mention being hit by a punch, I'm afraid that even a slight touch would cost him his life. Your reaction just now was good, red-haired. Standing not far away, Luo Jia crossed his arms and looked at the red-haired man with a smile on his face. The red-haired man exhaled. I don't want you to underestimate me, at least I have to make you take it seriously. The red-haired man also saw that Luo Jia was not serious at all. The other party has always been in this lazy attitude, obviously dealing with him. If you can do it, just come at me. I'm looking forward to it. Luo Jia grinned, showing his white teeth. Red Hair smiled back, and rushed forward like lightning. Before he arrived, the strike arrived first. Luo Jia caught the blade with his bare hands, firmly suppressed the red hair's knife, and made him unable to move. How about Red Hair? My empty-handed trick is not bad. Luo Jia showed a proud smile. Red Hair had no expression on his face, but was secretly shocked in his heart. I can't be passive like this anymore. I must fight back. My knife is not so easy to catch. The corners of the red hair's mouth rose, and the blade rubbed at a high speed between Luo Jia's palms. In an instant, sparks flew. This high-speed vibration frequency is really too fierce. Luo Jia sighed, and his palms were stretched open by the violent blade. Then his body was chopped hundreds of meters away, crashing through countless trees along the way and smashing into a mountain. But even so, Luo Jia was still savoring the excitement of the moment. Red Hair, Since you made me happy once, I decided to love you well. The mountain collapsed, and a figure jumped back in an instant. Ha ha ha, there will be more fun next, I'm afraid you can't bear it. Red Hair laughed wildly, dragging the blade and rushing towards Luo Jia. A real man can't say no. After speaking, the two collided again. It was as if another sun was shining, and even the clouds in the sky were broken open. This scene made countless people tremble. These two monsters. Is that Luo Jia really just a vice admiral? Is the gold content of marine vice admiral so exaggerated these days? Will we pirates live? Being able to suppress 4 emperors' red hair throughout the whole process, doesn't that mean he is a super emperor? Until this time, countless people woke up. Intelligence kills people. Intelligence says that Luo Jia is almost invincible. What the hell are you talking about? Is this almost invincible? This is invincible. In order to prove this, almost, they foolishly came here to suffer. Forget it. Seeing this level of battle, I don't know if they can return alive. After all, they are facing an invincible existence standing on the top of the sea. Just 1 or 2 aftermaths are enough to scatter their ashes, and it is the kind of powder without any particles. Boom, boom, boom. On the large island, the ground keeps cracking. The red-haired man slashed wildly, and each sword energy was enough to tear the void. Hurry up, and hurry up. I want more. Luo Jia was intoxicated, his hand speed was faster than ever before, and he blocked all the slashes with his bare hands. Anyway, he was not in a hurry. Let the red-haired man play to his heart's content, and then wait for the moment when he attacks to the climax and cut off his offensive at once. It's like a person who is holding his urine, and when he is about to pee, he is suddenly startled from behind. That kind of sour feeling, just thinking about it makes people excited. Luo Jia named this the strategy of seizing bamboo shoots. At this moment, Red Hair's swordsmanship has reached the ultimate, completely covering Luo Jia. From the surface, the situation seems to be gradually leaning towards Red Hair. Seeing this scene, the people of Red Hair Pirates are also excited. They have been hunted by Luo Jia, the fool, for 2 whole years. If the boss can defeat Luo Jia, it will not only make them feel relieved, but also completely get rid of Luo Jia, the dog skin plaster. And most importantly, Luo Jia will call Red Hair, Big Brother. This kind of sour feeling makes people excited just thinking about it. Most people are jubilant, as if they have seen Red Hair's victory. But only Ben Beckman has a gloomy face. Shanks is in a bad situation. Ben Beckman, who has the top level of observation, saw some information that ordinary people can't see. The most direct manifestation is that Red Hair has already used all his strength, but Luo Jia has not used all his strength at all. Luo Jia, you are indeed a strong opponent that I recognize. Even though he is at a disadvantage, Red Hair is still full of passion and his fighting spirit is getting stronger. Ha ha ha, Red Hair, you are also great. Luo Jia also gave a high evaluation to Red Hair. Red Hair knew that Luo Jia had been passively blocking and had no intention of attacking. Otherwise, he would have been able to attack with the opponent's invincible power. He knew that he could not bear it. At present, he could only rely on swordsmanship and speed to expand his advantage. If he fought head-on, he would not be able to withstand Luo Jia's punch. Fortunately, Luo Jia still gave me, the big brother, face and knew how to let me go. Almost. However, at this time, Luo Jia suddenly grinned and spoke to Red Hair. Almost. What almost? A strange look appeared in Red Hair's heart. So the next moment, Luo Jia gave the answer. Continuous ordinary punches. When Red Hair's offensive was about to reach its peak, Luo Jia's move directly cut off Red Hair's offensive. What? Red Hair's eyes widened, and he felt that his offensive was stagnant and he was very uncomfortable. Then, he was directly swept away by Luo Jia's fist wind. Boom, boom, boom. With several loud noises, Red Hair flew to the edge of the island and was almost blasted into the sea. Red Hair spit out a mouthful of blood, and several ribs were broken, but he still couldn't hide his shock at the moment. This guy actually intercepted my attack. What kind of sharp fighting instinct does this require? As the emperor at the top of the sea, Red Hair was also amazed at Luo Jia's fighting instinct. Sure enough, he is my rival. Red Hair stood up with difficulty and looked towards the center of the island. At this moment, the jaws of the Red Hair pirates almost fell to the ground. This is impossible, he actually gave the boss. Usopp opened his mouth wide, and Lucky Roo even dropped his beloved chicken leg to the ground. Red Hair, don't play dead, my fist didn't touch you. Luo Jia tilted his head and stood with his hands on his chest. This voice fell. Not only the Red Hair pirates, but also Hina and Marine in the distance, and all the people who were secretly watching, almost showed horror. The fist did not touch the Red Hair. In other words, the Red Hair was blown away by Luo Jia's fist. And, it was blown away for nearly 2,000 meters. Hey, is this scientific? You are not kidding. Luo Jia's words instantly petrified countless people. Although there is no shortage of strong people in this sea, the Red Hair is at the top of the sea after all. To put it bluntly, if we say who can become the strongest in the world in the next 10 years. Without a doubt, that person will definitely be the Red Hair. Even Luffy, the protagonist, cannot surpass him during this period. But this super strong man is as fragile as an ordinary person in front of Luo Jia. Yes, in front of Luo Jia, the Red Hair is just like an ordinary person. The difference in strength between the two seems to be completely in a different dimension. Red Hair, if you don't come over, I'll take the initiative to go over. Luo Jia stepped on the ground, and the whole person jumped up, landing in the posture commonly used by superheroes. At this time, Luo Jia's face was full of solemnity. In short, he was very handsome. After all, Luo Jia always felt that the greater the power, the greater the pretense, no, the greater the responsibility. Therefore, it should be very reasonable and logical to build yourself into a superhero personality. Although first I'm a marine, it does not prevent me from becoming a hero out of interest. Luo Jia couldn't help but smile. At this time, Red Hair also stood up, but the hand holding the knife was shaking slightly. He didn't want to shake. But there was no way, he was now seriously injured and almost didn't have the strength to hold the knife. Originally thought Luo Jia would not fight back, Red Hair felt that he had a good chance of winning. But who knew that the other party suddenly didn't follow the martial ethics and gave Big Brother a surprise attack. Good guy, he was stunned on the spot. Luo Jia, your sudden attack really caught me by surprise. Red Hair took a deep breath and tightened his knife in his hand again. But in the next moment, Luo Jia suddenly moved, and instantly came in front of Red Hair, and raised his fist. Before Luo Jia had been passively blocking, this was the first time he took the initiative to punch. At this moment, Luo Jia's image suddenly enlarged in Red Hair's eyes, as if he had turned into a giant. Death. For some reason, such a thought flashed through Red Hair's mind. This absolute power has surpassed this world. Unreasonable. Unrivaled. Boss. Shanks. Even Red Hair was shocked, not to mention the other Red Hair pirates. Even if they were far away, they could feel the great terror from Luo Jia's punch. Everyone's face changed drastically, and they stepped forward to stop him. This unsolvable power, once it falls on Red Hair, he will definitely die. At this moment, time seemed to slow down. Even though Luo Jia only used 30% of his strength, the power of this punch still made countless people tremble. Silently, when this punch landed, the world seemed to have nothing happened. But the slow timeline stopped directly. It seemed like a moment, and it seemed like a century had passed. Then, the space was broken. The void was full of traces similar to the shock fruit. These spatial cracks spread and fist winds penetrated through them. The shock wave crossed the entire sea, crossed the sky, and flew to the end of the sky. Then, under the stunned gaze of countless people, an abyss appeared in the sea that extended to the end. If you look from a high altitude, you can clearly see this punch, which went all the way from the front half of the Grand Line to the New World. It is equivalent to giving half the world a middle part. Such a subversive power was clearly captured by the newsbirds carrying video telephone bugs. For a time, the whole world and countless forces fell into silence. This is a cheat. This is the power that a human can exert. Do you think you are a barber, and you are giving the world a middle part? Can you still be a normal person? Hey. Don't launch such exaggerated attacks again, okay? My heart can't stand it. By the way, is the boss dead? The red hair pirates swallowed their saliva wildly. Looking at the endless abyss, their scalps were numb and cold. They all had a sense of confusion about who they were and where they came from. Crash! The waves rolled and surged. Just like the inner state of countless people. Red Hair was confused, and the splashes of the waves wet his hair. But he was unaware of it. There was no way. Although it was embarrassing to say it out, Red Hair's feet were really shaking now. It was not that he was afraid, but the instinctive reaction of this body. In short, he was afraid, but not completely afraid. If Luogia hadn't deliberately missed this punch, I guess the crew would have eaten my mat. Fortunately, Luogia still gave me some face. Red Hair swallowed his saliva and felt that his face played a big role again. Red Hair, you lost. Luogia tapped Red Hair's forehead with his fingers, and his momentum instantly returned to normal. The redhead was knocked by Luogia and recovered from his sluggish state and let out a long sigh. Yeah, I lost. But the redhead was not discouraged, but showed a free and easy smile. So far, 4 Emperor's red-haired shanks, defeated. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the task defeating 4 Emperor's red-haired, the current task completion rate is excellent. Ding! Reward host black and thick hair +1. Ding! Reward host resurrection card +1. Ding! Reward host intimate paradise +1. Ding! Reward host love at first sight card +1. Ding! Life limiter release progress 4%. My hair is finally here, it's not easy. Luogia heard this reward, tears immediately flowed down his face. God will not let down those who work hard. His hair can finally grow out, and he no longer has to wear a hat all day like a kainu. After all, who wears a hat for a serious marine? Now, Luogia no longer has to worry about the bald man. How could he not be excited? Hey, Luogia, don't go too far. You won this battle. Don't act like I bullied you. Why are you crying? The red-haired man looked at Luogia, who was still proud a second ago, and the next second, tears were streaming down his face without any warning. This made him confused. Could this person change his face? Why did he cry when he said he would cry? Thank you, red-haired man. Luogia wiped the tears and snot from his face and thanked the red-haired man without thinking. Can you take your hand away? Although the red-haired man was confused. But when he saw Luogia, who was wiping his tears and snot on him, he almost went crazy on the spot. This is his beloved cloak. Luogia wiped it clean and gently let go of his hand. He was in a good mood now after regaining his beautiful hair. Just like the blue sky and white clouds, the clear sky, suddenly, cough. Keep a low profile. On the other side, the waves gradually subsided, but countless people's hearts could not calm down. Facing such a punch, countless people no longer cared about Red Hair's victory or defeat. Instead, they cared about whether Red Hair died directly under this punch. Is Red Hair gone? With such an attack, even Red Hair would probably be reduced to ashes. Through the telescope, countless people couldn't help but murmur. There was no way. The scene just now shocked them too much. Whether it was the Red Hair pirates, the marine forces represented by Hina, or even the countless forces secretly spying. In front of this punch, they all seemed insignificant. Even the 5 elders with supreme power looked so pale under the might of this invincible punch. A punch across half of the Grand Line. This kind of broken standard power has surpassed power in everything. This man is invincible. I wonder if Whitebeard, who is known as the strongest man in the world, can fight him. It's hard to say. After all, Whitebeard is recognized as the strongest man in the world. Even a super strong man like Luogia would find it difficult to defeat him. Countless people shook their heads, and their faces showed awe. Note: there are 5 evaluations for task completion: poor, average, good, excellent, and perfect. Task evaluation is related to reward benefits. After all, Whitebeard has been the strongest in the world for more than 20 years. The power accumulated over the years has been deeply rooted in people's hearts, and almost no one can shake it. In addition, they don't have God's vision, and they didn't see the full picture of Luogia's punch. They only think that Luogia's punch is terrible, but they can't measure how terrible it is. So they subconsciously think that Luogia is only stronger than Red Hair. However, after this battle, many people who have seen Luojia's strength began to change their minds. Although they didn't see the full picture of Luojia's punch, it didn't prevent them from making judgments. The record of defeating Red Hair alone is enough for Luojia to challenge anyone. Even Whitebeard at his peak may not be able to defeat Red Hair. After all, Red Hair can be said to be the destined protagonist of this era. During the period when Luffy hadn't gone to sea, Red Hair was the most beautiful cub on this sea. How could Whitebeard, an old bacon, compare with it? It seems that the throne of the world's strongest has a chance to change hands. Countless people are full of expectations. Holy Land Mariajoy. Pengu City, within the power. Luojia, this man is really a headache, he is not someone we can control at all. Even if it is ancient weapon, I'm afraid it's not as exaggerated as him. How can such an inhuman existence appear in the world? The five elders had the broadcast screen, so they clearly saw the terrible scene caused by Luojia's punch. It was because they saw it clearly that they felt creepy and trembling all over. One punch penetrated half of the Grand Line. Even they had never seen such power. It is conceivable that Luojia's punch really scared the five elders. And according to intelligence, Luojia seems to be a guy who does what he wants. During his tenure, he disobeyed orders from his superiors many times, and left his post many times, and was lawless. That's right, judging from his performance this time, he could have killed the red-haired man, but he didn't, clearly ignoring the Marine's duties. Then what should we do with this man? For a moment, the five elders fell into silence. After a long time, the curly-haired five elders spoke slowly. This man is too strong. I think we should appease him at this stage. If we try to go against him, it will obviously be a stupid decision. That's right. Besides, he has joined Marine. Although we don't know his purpose, he is still on our side after all. So, let's wait and see. Maybe, if we raise his status by one level, and use power and interests to win him over, after a long time, maybe he will completely turn to us. Second, this is a good idea. Second, I believe no one can resist this temptation. Second, after seeing Luojia's invincible power, the five elders wanted to win him over as soon as possible. No matter what Luojia's purpose is in joining Marine, they don't care at all. Isn't it just wealth, power, reputation, and status? They give it. As long as Luojia and the world government can be completely tied together, it is worth it even if the price is high. After all, even the system of 7 warlords of the sea can be formulated and tolerated by the world government. What's more, Luojia is 1,000 times more terrifying than Shichibukai. Facing an unsolvable existence like Luojia, even the five elders are unwilling to be his enemy. Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Sengoku also clearly saw the power of Luojia's punch through the broadcast video. For a moment, he was silent for a long time. At first, he didn't expect Luojia to pervert so much. At first, he was just an ordinary little marine, but after coming to the naval headquarters, the whole person seemed to be reborn. Then he rose at an incredible speed and was promoted to Marine Vice Admiral in just a few years. If Luojia's qualifications were not so shallow, it is estimated that his glorious military achievements over the years would be enough to make him a Marine Admiral. This man is really unfathomable. Luojia, who are you? Forget it, this is beyond my authority to deal with. I guess the world government has already made a decision. Sengoku shook his head and sighed. Many people were shocked at first when Luojia chased the red hair pirates around the world. They were shocked by Luojia's strength, and even the 4 emperors had to avoid him. But they didn't have a clear outline of how strong Luojia was. But when Luojia first showed his strength, he punched through half of the Grand Line. This made countless people in awe of this power, and they couldn't help but feel hot in their hearts. You know, there is no shortage of lawless people in this sea. There is a famous saying that when the benefits reach 300%, people dare to risk being hanged. And Luojia himself admitted that he did master a set of training programs to become stronger. As long as they get this set of training programs, they may also reach the level of Luojia. In order to become stronger, they will definitely do whatever it takes and use whatever means to get this set of training programs. For this reason, the whole world has begun to stir up undercurrents for this training program. After a while, Luogia and Red Hair stopped fighting and finally ended the battle. It's a pity that I couldn't let you call me Big Brother. Red Hair shook his head, a little disappointed. Ha ha ha, Red Hair, when did you get this quirk, liking others to call you Big Brother? Luogia laughed dumbly. Listen to my advice, and quickly get rid of this bad habit. Find another woman to call you Daddy, isn't this better than Big Brother? Why do you have to do this kind of nonsense? Red Hair smiled casually. I just want to drive a warship. Believe me, warships are not easy to drive. At this point, Luogia subconsciously looked at Hina in the distance. Red Hair looked over with a telepathic look, and then looked at Luogia and smiled at each other. Indeed, warships are not easy to drive. Half a day later. Luogia waved goodbye to the Red Hair pirates. Under Hina's vicious eyes, Luogia let the Red Hair pirates go without authorization. Hina-chan, I'm doing this to maintain the balance of this sea. This guy is shameless, and said to Hina earnestly. Not only that, Luogia deliberately took off his hat and fiddled with his hairstyle. If being handsome is a crime, I guess I will be sentenced to death. Luogia took out a mirror and a comb. While combing his thick black hair, he shook his head and sighed from time to time. But the smile that couldn't be suppressed at the corner of his mouth betrayed him. Hina's forehead was throbbing with veins, and she held the fire control in her hand tightly. She was afraid that if she couldn't help it, she would shoot this guy. 1 day later, at the end of the sea level, a large warship suddenly arrived. The warship gradually approached the island, and Hina also found it. At this time, Kizaru was standing on the deck, looking at the island in front of him. Is this the island? Yes, Admiral. The adjutant nodded at Kizaru. Kizaru showed a lewd smile. Really, Luogia has been chasing Red Hair for 2 years, there must be some hidden relationship between these two people. Kizaru Admiral, please be careful with your words. When the adjutant heard this, he immediately broke out in a cold sweat. In the naval headquarters, although Luogia is not liked by the top management, the middle and lower level Marines are almost all Luogia's supporters. If Kizaru's words are spread out, Luogia probably doesn't have to bother him, and those middle and lower level Marines will complain about him. It's so scary, I can't afford to offend him, I can't afford to offend him. Kizaru looked a little unhappy. But there is no way, he is just an employee, there is no need to go against most of the Marines. Isn't it nice to get paid while lying down? But to be honest, Luogia has chased him to the depths of the new world, which is really messy. In fact, Kizaru didn't want to show up in person, but Luogia had already crossed the territory of the 4 Emperors Red Hair and was about to enter the territory of Whitebeard. So, for the sake of safety, Kizaru decided to go there in person. After all, there are not many people who can keep Kizaru in this sea. It's really hard to be a peacemaker. Kizaru looked helpless, then turned into a beam of light and refracted to the island. Luogia was still immersed in his handsomeness and didn't notice Kizaru's arrival at all. It seems that in Luogia's eyes, Kizaru is not as attractive as a beautiful hair. After several refractions, Kizaru soon came to Luogia. Luogia, long time no see, I miss you so much. Kizaru smiled, and there was still a hint of vulgarity in his smile. Oh, it's Kizaru. Luogia reacted on the spot, slapped his thigh, and apologized. It's all my fault that I was blinded by my handsomeness and ignored your arrival. This time it's my fault. After speaking, Luogia turned around and asked Hina, Hina, how can you be my adjutant? You didn't even say hello in advance when Admiral Kizaru came. Seeing Luogia shirking responsibility so shamelessly, Hina almost fainted from anger. It's okay, I showed up a little too suddenly. While talking, Kizaru looked at Luogia. Isn't this guy bald? How come he grows hair after going out? But it's a pity that no matter how handsome he is, it's useless. Handsomeness is nothing compared to coquettishness. Thinking of this, Kizaru sneered in his heart. Being handsome or not is only a temporary thing, but being coquettish or not is a lifelong thing. In this regard, Kizaru has absolute confidence to crush Luogia. Kizaru was looking at Luogia, and Luogia was also looking at him. I have to say that every time Luogia saw Kizaru, he would think of P-Pap. His appearance was so hot. In terms of appearance, Luogia did admit that he was not as good as the other party. And Kizaru's fruit ability was also what Luogia envied at present. After all, that man was not eager to turn into light and save the world. By the way, Kizaru, how did you find me? Luogia immediately brought the topic back on track. Well, I naturally have my own intelligence channels. Kizaru shrugged. It's like this, I came here this time to ask you to return to naval headquarters. You don't know, Sakazuki has exploded for your absence from duty this time. Chapter 11. Let me return to naval headquarters. Luogia frowned, obviously a little unhappy. After all, compared to the colorful world outside, the work of reviewing various documents at naval headquarters is a waste. Luogia didn't want to do such boring work at all. This makes me very embarrassed. After all, I still have a few pirate groups to deal with, and I don't want to go back yet. Luogia looked embarrassed. Oh, in other words, if you deal with these pirate groups, you will agree to go back to the headquarters. Then this matter is easy to handle, I can help you solve it. Kizaru's eyes lit up when he heard it, and he couldn't wait to say. Really, thank you so much. According to my original plan, after dealing with the Red Hair Pirates, I will visit the Beasts Pirates, Whitebeard Pirates, Bigmom Pirates. Luogia looked serious and counted on his fingers. Stop, stop, stop. Kizaru was sweating and his scalp was numb. Good man, any random pirate group wants to kill him. This guy is not deliberately setting a trap for him. This is a steal. Luogia, you think too highly of me. I am just a salaried person. Don't ask me for such high-risk work. Kizaru wiped the cold sweat, looking a little guilty. What should I do? Why don't you have a PK with me, and whoever wins will listen to him? Even if a Kainu holds you accountable, you have to explain yourself, right? After saying that, Luogia put down the mirror and comb in his hand and jumped onto the island again. PK. Seeing Luogia start fighting without saying anything, Kizaru was a little unresponsive. That's it. Luogia picked up a stone and threw it in the direction of Kizaru. The air exploded into a circle of gas clouds, and Kizaru was instantly shot out. What? Kizaru reassembled his body somewhere on the island, with an expression on his face. It's not like he hasn't been beaten before, but this is the first time he has encountered someone who does it without hesitation like Luogia. At least he should be mentally prepared. Why does this sound weird? Hey, can you do it? If not, forget it, I won't make it difficult for you. Luogia stood on the island, his arms crossed, and his expression was a little impatient. Humph, I was just careless just now and you shot me. Also, a man should never say no. He always pretended to be cool in front of others, but this was the first time someone pretended to be cool in front of him. The worst thing was that he was really pretended by the other party. This uncle can tolerate, but aunt can't. Yasukani no Magatama. Kizaru jumped into the air, and countless laser beams fell all over the sky, like golden meteors. Right, this is a bit of Admiral's momentum. Luogia took a deep breath, and then spit out a ball of air cannon from his mouth. The air cannon forcibly blew away countless laser beams, and instantly hit Kizaru in the air. With a bang, Kizaru's body exploded again, like a golden firework. A moment later, Kizaru reassembled his body again, revealing a very painful expression. Really, I am here to be the peacemaker with a relaxed and happy mood. But, even if you can blow me up 1,000 times, you can't beat me. Kizaru seems to never change his wretched nature, and he still looks like he deserves a beating even after being blown up. Really, since you want to pursue excitement, I will help you to the end. Look at your small body, how many times can you withstand my whipping? Luogia showed a weird smile. Since Kizaru has this need, as a comrade, he must satisfy the other party. As soon as the voice fell, Luogia disappeared instantly. So fast, Kizaru's face changed, and his body turned into a beam of light. Two figures, one gold and one white, kept interweaving like two streams of light. I have to say, in terms of speed, Kizaru really did the ultimate, and he could actually keep up with Luogia's speed. In addition to his elemental body, even though Kizaru was beaten up several times, he was still safe in the end. Of course, his physical strength must have been consumed. But it was not a big problem. Kizaru believed in his endurance and persistence. Although he was fast, he was definitely not weak. This was also Luojia's personal evaluation of Kizaru. It's not a solution to continue to be beaten up. I have to find a chance to fight back. Kizaru reassembled his body again. Although he was not seriously injured, he couldn't hold his face. He had to let Luojia know that in addition to his good acting skills, Kizaru's combat power was also at the top of the sea. Laser beam. The dazzling golden light burst out from Kizaru's fingertips and shot towards Luojia not far away. Luojia directly opened his palm and grabbed the light. The laser beam was scattered and turned into countless light bullets that bombarded the ground, directly blowing the entire ground into the surface of the moon. The battle between the two was so loud that all the Marines looked over here. Seeing this scene, all the Marines were stunned. What's going on? Did they fight? That doesn't make sense. I've always heard that Luojia Vice Admiral is approachable. How could it be? I understand. It's possible that Luojia Vice Admiral and Kizaru Admiral had a disagreement and their opinions were deadlocked, so they used a duel to solve the problem. All the Marine soldiers listened to the analysis of this wise king and felt that it made sense. After all, they followed Kizaru to Luojia, in the final analysis, to persuade him to return to the headquarters. But it is obvious that Luojia Vice Admiral did not have this intention. So the two of them fought. After such an analysis, it is reasonable. The idea is indeed clear. At this time, the King of Understanding took the opportunity to open the market. Come on, bet Kizaru Admiral 100 to 1, bet Luojia Vice Admiral 1 to 1, buy it and leave it. What are you doing? Our Marines should be self-disciplined and polite, set an example, and become a good role model for the people. You actually, 10,000 Baileys, I bet Luojia Vice Admiral to win. Before he finished speaking, this Marine bet Bailey. Good guy, it shook everyone instantly. Then, the scene was in chaos. I bet on Luojia Vice Admiral. I also bet on Luojia Vice Admiral. HMPH, I don't believe in evil, I want to bet on Luojia Vice Admiral. Just like that, almost all bets were placed on Luojia, which made the know-it-all who opened the market dumbfounded. Some Marines subconsciously said, how about, let's go support Kizaru Admiral, this shouldn't be considered a foul. After saying this, some Marines around looked at this Marine soldier like a monkey. In a battle of that level, they, the small fish, were not called support. That's called reincarnation. Luojia, is your body made of sea stone? Do you have to be so hard? I can't shoot in. Seeing Luojia directly use his flesh to block his laser beam, Kizaru's expression was so wonderful. If a man doesn't get hard, is he still a man? I'm not saying anything bad about you, Kizaru. I told you to exercise more, but you didn't listen. Now you can't shoot in me. Quote. Luojia waved his hand to disperse a beam of laser, looking at Kizaru with some regret. I am the man with the best and fastest shooting ability in the world, I don't believe I can't shoot through you. At this moment, Kizaru seemed to have made some kind of determination. As the fastest and most powerful man in the world, he would never allow his ability to be questioned. He wants to be a hero. At this moment, Kizaru turned into a beam of light. Moreover, this beam of light is completely different from the previous one, filled with terrifying sharpness. Sparkling fruit ability awakened. Aim no Murasaki Yasukani no Magatama. This beam of light turned into a sun in the sky, and immediately after, countless golden lightsabers fell from the sky. Ha! Are you finally getting serious? I'm so looking forward to it. Quote. Luojia's eyes lit up, and his fighting spirit began to ignite as he watched the swords of Amakume pouring down. Ordinary table flipping. Luojia inserted his hands into the foot of the mountain and lifted up a mountain. Boom, boom, boom. Countless swords of Amakume instantly dismembered the mountain, and bursts of explosions sounded for a while. As for Luojia, who was located below, he opened his arms and let the swords of Amakume shoot at his body. As for defense, what is that? Then, a mushroom cloud rose up. Seeing the nuclear explosion on the island, the civilians on the nearby islands were all horrified. One of them recognized Kizaru and immediately screamed. Isn't that Admiral Kizaru from the naval headquarters? How did he come to this island? The Marine Admiral went out in person, could it be that there is a big pirate on this island? Quote. Looking at the mushroom cloud of the nuclear explosion, countless civilians showed horror on their faces. At the same time, some people knelt down and prayed that the other side would not attack them. In the center of the mushroom cloud, countless golden lightsabers were flying all over the sky. This scene looked like the golden treasure house of the king. But compared to the golden handsomeness, Kizaru looked a little disgusting. Luo Jia crossed his arms and blocked most of the golden lightsabers, but many of them still pierced him. Nani, Luo Jia, you are not going to die. Don't scare me. Quote. Kizaru did not expect that Luo Jia would use his body to take his attack. You know, his awakened ability, although not as wide-ranging as Akainu and Aokiji. But in terms of single-target attack power, each of his golden lightsabers can definitely match the slash of the great swordsman. Moreover, Kizaru originally just wanted to teach Luo Jia a lesson, and had no intention of killing him. But now it has become like this. Oh my, this is bad, he won't really die, no way, no way. Kizaru stopped attacking and immediately launched observation haki to scan. This is. However, when he scanned Luo Jia's body, Kizaru's expression was stunned for a moment. Those lightsabers inserted into Luo Jia's body turned out to be only temporarily attached to the surface. The tip of the sword had been cut off long ago, and it didn't penetrate Luo Jia's body at all, and it was estimated that it didn't even break the skin. No way, I have awakened the ability of the fruit, but I still can't break his defense. What kind of body is this? This is too outrageous. Quote. Kizaru opened his eyes wide, his tone full of disbelief. Kizaru has always been very conceited about his attack power, he can even penetrate diamonds. But he never expected that Luo Jia's defense would be so perverted. He always thought that Luo Jia was just very perverted in strength, but he didn't expect that the other party's defense would be so perverted. It's simply the pervert among perverts. Your massage technique is pretty good. But, is that all? Luo Jia shook off the lightsaber stuck in his body and looked at Kizaru with a teasing look on his face. It's really scary, but now, I'm going to be serious. Don't die this time, Luo Jia. Kizaru got serious for the first time. Although he usually behaves very wretched and unremarkable. But Kizaru is actually a very proud person. He will never allow himself to fail. A flash. Kizaru instantly came to Luo Jia's head and kicked Luo Jia with his right foot at a very fast speed. Have you been kicked at the speed of light? When Kizaru said this, it meant that he was really angry. Under the frivolous tone, there was a fierce murderous intent. Pretending in front of me. You are still far away. Luo Jia had a blank expression on his face, and his face was covered by a shadow, and his murderous aura was soaring. He did not dodge or evade, and let Kizaru kick him down. Boom! Kizaru kicked Luo Jia in the head, but it was as if he had kicked steel. In fact, this kick made Luo Jia's head unable to move at all. Impossible. Seeing this scene, Kizaru finally screamed. This kick, he combined the top haki and fruit awakening ability. Even if the four emperors were hit by such a blow, they would probably be injured. But Luo Jia actually took it with his head, and it didn't move at all. This guy is too stubborn. However, before Kizaru could react, Luo Jia grinned and raised his fist to hit. Oh no! Kizaru's face changed drastically, and Luo Jia's voice came to his ears at the same time. Have you been squeezed by space? The same pretentious words, spoken from different people, immediately showed different effects. There was a loud bang in the sky and the earth, and the space rippled violently like the surface of water. And Kizaru directly became a person in the underworld, his body as soft as noodles. My body can't be transformed into an element. Kizaru showed a trace of horror on his face. Except for Haki and Seastone, this was the first time that he was unable to be transformed into an element by someone using pure power. This was equivalent to Luo Jia creating a power system to restrain Logia. A moment later, Kizaru's bones were creaking all over his body, and he was almost twisted into a noodle. Seeing this, Luo Jia decisively withdrew the power to squeeze the space. If this continued, Kizaru would definitely be squeezed to death. When Luo Jia withdrew the power, Kizaru immediately transformed into an element and retreated far away. Ahem, what kind of strange power is this? Kizaru coughed up blood from his mouth, and some of his bones were broken. This was the first time he was hurt since he got the sparkling fruit. How could Kizaru not be shocked by this? This is just a trick of using force. If space is compared to solid ice, then I use force to forcefully squeeze this solid ice into liquid water. That is, the liquid space you are in will lock you in it. Then after my continuous squeezing, the liquid space will gradually shrink until it turns into the original nothingness. Well, the basic principle is like this. Seeing that Kizaru has recovered and has not suffered any serious injuries, Luogia leisurely talked about the principle of this liquid space. The liquid space just now was also specially researched by him to deal with Logia. As for why he didn't learn hockey, Luogia felt that it was unnecessary. He is already invincible, and learning hockey is bullying. Although what you said doesn't sound like human language, I barely understand it, but this is more scary, okay. Kizaru grinned, sweating all over his body in pain. Even though Luogia stopped just now, he was still seriously injured. Although Kizaru is usually careless, this is the first time he has been injured in his life. His first time, he fell into Luogia's hands, but it really scared him. Do you want to continue fighting? Kizaru decided to fight at first, because he wanted to find out the gap between himself and Luogia. After all, the unknown is often the most terrifying. But Luogia's move just now scared him. Although he knew that Luogia would not kill him, he didn't want to feel the suffocation of being trapped in the liquid space again. It was not until this time that Kizaru suddenly realized that Luogia and them were no longer in the same dimension. Wouldn't it be asking for abuse to fight with such a monster? Forget it. I won't fight anymore. For your sincerity, I will go back to Naval Headquarters. It's also for you to have an explanation. Luogia shook his head and had lost interest in continuing the fight. As a peacemaker, it was not easy for Kizaru to be caught between Akainu and him. After all, the other party is old, and if he continues to make trouble, he may die. Moreover, Luogia still has the traditional virtue of respecting the elderly and loving the young. Seeing that Kizaru just worked so hard, Luogia is willing to give him some face. If Kizaru knew what Luogia was thinking, he would probably spit out a mouthful of blood. It turns out that the clown is me. Not far from the island, 2 warships were docked on the shore. At this time, many Marines swallowed their saliva and looked at each other after seeing the roar and explosion disappear. Is it finally over? How can it not end? If we continue to fight like this, I'm afraid the island will be sunk. Even a Marine Rear Admiral like Hina showed awe on her face when she saw this level of battle scene. The reason why she agreed to be Luogia's adjutant was partly because of the arrangement from above, but more because she hoped to get Luogia's guidance. And Luogia did not let her down, let alone disappoint her. During these 2 years, after Luogia's personal guidance, Hina's strength has improved by leaps and bounds. Although her rank is still Rear Admiral, her strength is very close to that of the Vice Admiral of the headquarters. Hina Rear Admiral, are we going over? No, let's wait and see here, they will come over anyway. Hina waved her hand, signaling many Marines to stay calm. As expected, as soon as Hina finished speaking, a golden beam of light fell in front of everyone and turned back into Kizaru's appearance. Admiral, all Marines saluted immediately. Kizaru's subordinates did not show any surprise when they saw Kizaru return unscathed. In their hearts, although Luogia was very strong, he should not be able to defeat Kizaru. I didn't expect Luogia Vice Admiral to be as strong as the rumors say, and he could even tie with you. The adjutant saluted Kizaru and spoke respectfully. Kizaru's mouth twitched slightly when he heard this. Although he knew that these guys must have misunderstood, he still felt a little awkward now. Tai, Laozi was almost beaten to death. Hee. Kizaru laughed to hide the embarrassment on his face. No way, did you give Luogia Vice Admiral too? You were impulsive. The adjutant heard Kizaru's words and immediately showed a trace of worry. Hearing the adjutant's words, Kizaru almost vomited blood. Impulsive, sister, where on earth do you get the confidence to think that I can defeat Luogia, that monster? Although he was extremely upset, Kizaru couldn't explain it. Could it be that I was beaten up by Luogia, and in the end, it was the other party who showed mercy and I was lucky enough to escape? If he said such words, where would his old face be? But the adjutant was so short-sighted that he kept making up for himself. Alas, we are all colleagues, you don't have to be so heavy-handed. As the saying goes, leave a line for everything, so that we can meet again in the future. However, the next moment, the adjutant was stunned. Because on the deck of the warship next to him, there was a person he was very familiar with. This, isn't it Luo Jia, Vice Admiral? No matter how he looked, he didn't look like he was defeated. You are really a talent. Kizaru patted the adjutant's shoulder, and then teleported to Luo Jia's warship. Luo Jia, we still have some time to go to the headquarters, why don't we drink tea and read photo magazines to kill time? I heard you have some new stuff, why don't you share it with everyone? Kizaru came to Luo Jia's side, with an ambiguous tone, showing an expression that all men understand. Hee, you finally found the right person. I not only have new stuff recently, but also got a rare book collection of Intimate Paradise. I guarantee you will have endless aftertaste after reading it, and you will never want to leave. Luo Jia also showed a smile that all men understand. Then, Luo Jia and Kizaru walked into the warship together under Haine's helpless gaze. As for the adjutant, he was confused and just stood there. What I just said shouldn't have been heard by Lord Luo Jia. The adjutant shuddered and began to pray that Luo Jia didn't hear what he said. Inside the cabin. This is the tea I secretly got from Sengoku-san. It tastes absolutely great. Kizaru's face was full of flirtatiousness, and he personally brewed a pot of tea for Luo Jia. There was no way. After all, the other party had the new stuff, how could he not be itching? Not bad. Luo Jia often stole tea and rice crackers from Sengoku Garp before. I have to say that Sengoku's tea is really delicious. To put it bluntly, free things are good. However, Luo Jia frowned while drinking. Because he thought of a serious problem. As the saying goes, one monk has water to drink, but two monks have no water to drink. The tea he stole alone was already small enough. If Kizaru also stole, then there would be no tea left in the future. This is simply killing the chicken to get the eggs. No, I have to remind Kizaru. Tea is good, but we have to take care of the old man's mood. We really can't do that kind of stealing in the future. Do you understand what I mean? Luo Jia persuaded Kizaru earnestly. I understand. After all, Sengoku-san is not easy. He is busy every day. He really needs tea to refresh himself. I am a little rude. Kizaru was ashamed, but he thought about it and felt that something was wrong. Who are we? It's just that I have always been stealing. Thinking of this, Kizaru suddenly realized. So that's it. This guy persuaded me not to steal again. It turns out that he is also one of them. Let me not steal, and at the same time let himself take more. Good guy, this wave of operations is in the atmosphere. High, really high. Luo Jia looked at Kizaru's changing expression and admired his rich facial expressions. He is indeed a monkey. Luo Jia was drinking tea while thinking. Going back to naval headquarters this time should not be so easy. Akainu alone must be faced. Well, it's just the right opportunity to test Akainu's depth and see how deep his water is. Then, Luo Jia took out the Intimate Paradise rewarded by the system and sat down with Kizaru to discuss. As for the warship, it was smooth all the way. After sailing for a few days, it returned to naval headquarters smoothly. Everything was normal along the way back. In fact, under normal circumstances, few pirates would take the initiative to provoke warships. What's more, there was a warship with Marine admirals sitting on it. Marineford, Naval Headquarters Fortress. Kizaru and Luo Jia were familiar with the road and walked all the way to the top floor office. The Marines along the way saw the two and saluted them respectfully. Half a while, the two came to the top floor of the naval headquarters, in the marshal's office. And Sengoku was waiting for them inside. Seeing Kizaru come in, Sengoku nodded at him and looked at Luo Jia beside him. Alas, this guy really gives me a headache. Originally, Sengoku thought that Luo Jia often violated military regulations just because he was young. When he matures, this kind of thing will not happen again. In this regard, Sengoku still has a say. After all, when he and Garp were young, they were in a similar situation with Luo Jia. The same self-willed, young and frivolous. Youth is always full of passion and impulse. But Sengoku only realized now that he was too naive. As he gets older, Luogia not only did not restrain himself, but became more unscrupulous. Even Sengoku couldn't find a way to check and balance Luogia, so he had such a headache. You two have worked hard this time, come on, sit down. Sengoku invited the two to sit down. The adjutant next to them came over and poured a cup of tea for the three of them. This is my special tea, it tastes very good, I guarantee you have never tasted such delicious tea. Good tea. Luogia and Kizaru looked at each other, both of them tacitly kept silent, just drank the tea, and then praised it. How could it not be good? They have been drinking it for a while. At the same time, looking at Sengoku's kind face, Luogia and Kizaru felt a little guilty. Quote, Marshal Sengoku, you ordered me to return to the headquarters this time. You are not just inviting me to tea, are you? Luogia put down the teacup and looked at Sengoku. Sengoku did not beat around the bush and spoke directly, it's like this. The pirate forces in New World are divided and the people are suffering, so I plan to transfer you to the G1 branch base. What do you think? Luogia pondered for a moment. Long-term or short-term? Long-term. Sengoku's eyes flickered. However, I will give you the maximum autonomy. As long as you can ensure the stability of New World, you can do whatever you want, and I will not ask anything. Ahem. Sengoku's words made Kizaru spit out the tea in his mouth. In other words, although my military rank remains unchanged, my actual power has risen to a higher level. Luogia's eyes lit up and showed an unexpected expression. Borsellino, what's wrong? Sengoku looked at Kizaru, not understanding why he was surprised. In his opinion, Luogia has a terrifying combat power that can rival or even surpass the four emperors. So giving Luogia the greatest autonomy will help him to stay in the New World and stabilize the order of this sea. Besides, Luogia's military rank has not changed. So Sengoku does not think that there is anything unusual about this appointment. As the saying goes, extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. As long as there is strength and justice in mind, Sengoku is still very tolerant of such marine talents. In the original work, Fujitora smiled, and was directly promoted to Marine Admiral by virtue of his strong strength. If Luogia's qualifications were not too shallow, Sengoku would have wanted to apply for an additional admiral position from the world government. Looking at Sengoku's appearance, Kizaru looked helpless. He wanted to shout, don't be fooled by Luogia. As Luogia's colleague, Kizaru knew the true face of this guy very well. I do my own thing, lawless. If he is placed in the New World, it would be like letting a tiger go back to the mountain and a fish go into the sea. With Luogia's usual behavior, it would be strange if he didn't turn the entire New World upside down. At that time, let alone maintaining the stability of the sea, it would be good if there was no four emperors level war. Why did Kizaru agree to be a peacemaker for Akainu and even personally persuade Luogia to return to the headquarters? It was because he saw this that he and Akainu agreed to stand on the same side. Although Luogia and he have similar temperaments, they have different positions. Kizaru just wants to go to get off work and get paid every day and get paid smoothly every month. He doesn't want to deal with pirates all day long. How tiring that would be. Wouldn't it be nice to lie on the sofa and look at photos? Sengoku's sudden proposal really caught Kizaru off guard. Sengoku-san, I think this matter needs to be considered in the long run. It is inevitable that there will be some problems if Luogia is the only one in charge of New World. After all, the pirates in New World are still very scary. I am worried that Luogia can't handle it alone. Kizaru had no choice but to remind Sengoku tactfully. The underlying meaning of this is, let Luogia, the troublemaker, stay at the headquarters and don't let him go out to make trouble. Sengoku was stunned when he heard Kizaru's words. Is Luogia's way of dealing with things really as bad as Kizaru implied? If Kizaru usually dissuaded him, he would just take it as a joke. Then this deliberate reminder was obviously wrong. Luogia should, maybe, perhaps, probably have a very bad way of dealing with things. Doesn't this mean that letting Luogia sit in charge of New World will not only fail to suppress, but may also provoke various disputes? Sengoku frowned, obviously a little unexpected. He and the five elders only saw Luojia's invincible power, but never delved into Luojia's way of doing things. Although Kizaru is usually careless, Sengoku knows that he has a good eye for people. Since even he hinted at it, it proves that Luojia's way of doing things is really bad. At least, it is bad for Marine. For a moment, the atmosphere was a little awkward. And at this moment, a hearty laugh suddenly came from outside. Wow, ha ha ha, Sengoku, where did you hide my senbei? The next moment, Garp kicked the door in and yelled without any image. After entering, Garp immediately saw Luojia sitting there, and laughed in surprise. Luojia, you are back, and you didn't even say hello to me. Haha, old man Garp, it's been a long time since I saw you. How are you doing without me? Luojia stood up and gave Garp a hug. It's still the same. But I heard that you are very good outside. Garp picked his nose and laughed. You even defeated Red Hair, very good. I have been annoyed with Red Hair for a long time. I admire Red Hair very much. He is a very good person, very strong, and worthy of being remembered by me. Luojia shook his head and gave a high evaluation of Red Hair. Humph, no matter what you say, I just hate Red Hair, who told him to mislead the students. As if thinking of something, Garp's face suddenly darkened. Garp, you old guy, if you are fine, just stay aside. Sengoku glared at Garp unhappily. This old guy is really a troublesome guy, just as much of a headache for him as Luojia. Luojia took out a bag of senbei and handed it to Garp. Old man, you should be quiet. I will chat with you later when I have time. Haha, you are indeed my old friend, unlike someone who only knows how to show off his power. Garp took the senbei and ate it with relish. Before leaving, he did not forget to say something bad about someone. Seeing this, Sengoku gritted his teeth and wanted to beat this old man to death. Who is the last sentence referring to? Let's continue the topic just now. Luojia, do you have any objection to the appointment I just proposed? After careful consideration, Sengoku did not accept Kizaru's hint and still adopted the original plan. There are 3 reasons for doing so. First, this appointment was largely promoted and acquiesced by the 5 elders. Second, New World really needs a strong person to take charge. Third, transferring Luojia away will help ease the conflict between him and the Marine Hawks. At least let Luojia and Akainu separate, otherwise Sengoku can't guarantee that the two will not fight in the naval headquarters. With the power of 2 people, if they really fight in naval headquarters, the consequences will be absolutely disastrous. In fact, the most important point is that Sengoku, like the 5 elders, does not want to offend Luojia now. If he offends him and forces him to become a pirate, it will be a big trouble. This is what Sengoku is more concerned about. From this aspect, we can also see the difference between Sengoku and Kizaru. One is an egoist, the other is a person who focuses on the overall situation. I can agree, but there is a condition. Luojia pondered for a moment and put forward an opinion. Hearing this, Sengoku said solemnly, what condition? I don't expect to be promoted to admiral at this stage, but I don't want anyone to give orders to me. Take my subordinates away from Sakazuki. I need independence and the position of the base chief of the G1 branch. Sengoku hesitated for a moment and made a direct decision, okay. The conditions proposed by Luojia were actually not beyond Sengoku's expectations. And this is exactly what Sengoku wants to see. Since Luojia and Akainu have different positions and many conflicts, it is better to separate them and solve this problem completely. As for the position of branch base chief, it can also be regarded as paving the way for Luojia to become admiral and accumulate more qualifications. Anyway, it is better than forcing Luojia to leave. As long as Luojia can be stabilized and let him stay in Marine with peace of mind, all conditions are not a problem. Very good, then it's a happy decision. Seeing Sengoku's final decision, Luojia smiled with satisfaction. Taking the G1 branch base as the next stop is also a good choice. After a while, Sengoku removed Luojia's name from Akainu's command, and retained Luojia's rank of Marine Vice Admiral, as well as his concurrent position as the head of the G1 branch base. Today's Luojia is a bit like Garp. He is not subject to the orders and jurisdiction of the Marine Admiral, and can also participate in the Marine high-level meetings. At present, the only people who are qualified to participate in the Marine high-level meetings are Sengoku, the 3 admirals, the Chief of Staff, Garp, Zephyr and a few others. Now there is one more, Luogia. After a moment, when Sengoku announced this series of appointments, it instantly shook the entire naval headquarters. Except for the recruits in the elite training camp, almost all Marines were extremely surprised by the news. No one expected that Luogia would be appointed as the head of the G1 branch base. Especially the hawkish forces headed by Akainu, all of them widened their eyes and looked shocked. At the same time, countless pirate forces also got the news, which immediately aroused the vigilance of all pirates. New World, Moby Dick. Whitebeard threw the intelligence in his hand and took a sip of wine. Luogia, the kid who defeated the red-haired kid, is actually in charge of the New World. Marco said solemnly. This Luogia is not simple, I'm afraid the New World will set off another wave. Marine, as the strongest force in this sea, dared to appoint Luogia to guard the New World alone, which is enough to explain the problem. Obviously, Marine is full of confidence in Luogia. Why is he confident? That must be strength. And not long ago, Luogia defeated Red Hair and proved his terrible strength to the world. For such a terrifying strong man, even the Whitebeard pirates dare not underestimate it. Hey, I heard that this man named Luogia is very tough. I want to see whether he is tougher or I am tougher. Diamond Joe's grinned and posed a philosophical bodybuilding pose. Yes, I want to see if this Luogia is qualified to fencing with me. Foil Beasta flicked his beard and smiled philosophically. Holy Land Mariajoy, Pengu City, between power. At this time, the 5 elders were holding a document in their hands. Sengoku did the right thing this time. Keeping Luogia stable is the best choice at present. As long as Luogia is still a Marine in name, he will continue to work for the world government. In this way, he is within the controllable range. Even if Luogia has any bad intentions in the future, we can take preventive measures immediately. Several 5 elders chatted with each other. After all, they have been sitting in this position for decades, and they are all shrewd people. The world government has been able to rule the world for 800 years. In addition to absolute power, it is of course indispensable to the wisdom of strategizing. Naval headquarters. In Akainu's office. Humph. Luogia. Such a lawless guy has become a senior executive of Marine. Really. Hateful. At this time, Akainu was holding a document. His face was gloomier than ever before. In fact, before this, Luogia left his post without permission and privately hunted down the Red Hair pirates. Akainu chose to endure it, even if Luogia deliberately let the Red Hair pirates go afterwards. Akainu also endured it. But today, Akainu suddenly received this appointment document. But he couldn't stand it anymore. In Akainu's view, Marine represents absolute justice. Guys like Luogia are simply a cancer of Marine. He also couldn't stand Luogia's behavior. If this guy dares to do something against justice in the future, then I will definitely deal with him personally. Akainu's eyes were fierce, and he burned the document in his hand, turning it into ashes. At the same time, Luogia came to the top floor of the headquarters fortress. From this position, he could overlook the entire Marineford. The naval headquarters fortress is very large, especially the square below, which can accommodate 100,000 people at the same time, which is magnificent. Such a large square, it's a waste not to use it for square dancing. Luogia shook his head with some regret. Then, his eyes swept across the entire fortress, overlooking all kinds of people. Although he did not have observation haki, his perception was also different from ordinary people, and he could feel a lot of powerful auras from it. It is worthy of being the strongest force in the sea, it is really full of talents. Compared with when Luogia left 2 years ago, naval headquarters has obviously added a lot of strong people. Of course, these powerful auras are only for ordinary people. For Luogia, no matter how strong these people are, it's basically a matter of one punch. This is not a gap in strength, but a gap in dimension and realm, which cannot be made up by talent and potential. Well, that high-temperature aura should be Akainu, and that cold aura should be Aokiji. After roughly scanning the headquarters fortress, Luogia instantly judged the truth. Judging from the number and quality of the strong, Marine is indeed the best in the sea, stronger than any four emperors' pirate group. The three elements of Admiral, the highest combat power in the old era, these people stand at the top of the sea. To go to war with Marine, at least 2 four emperors groups are enough. Of course, Luo Jia is not included. But even so, Marine is still the most powerful force in this sea. These people will be in my pocket sooner or later. Luo Jia's eyes are deep, and it is rare to reveal his true thoughts. He admitted that he joined Marine for ulterior motives. What is his purpose in joining Marine? Is it really to maintain world peace? Yes, but this way of maintaining peace must be in accordance with Luo Jia's own ideas. And the first step for him to maintain peace is of course to first clean up all the pirate forces in this sea. The second step is to completely control Marine. As for the third step, thinking of this, Luo Jia's eyes are deep. His sight seems to penetrate through layers of space and come to the sky above the red line. Suddenly, Luo Jia's face was stunned. I'm just bored. I'll just kill some time with you guys. As soon as he finished speaking, Luo Jia disappeared. Headquarters Fortress, Leisure Hall. As headquarters Marines, they don't go out on duty every day. Generally, Marine recruits receive training in the recruit camp. And after graduation, formal Marines still have to continue training. The Marine system is stricter for Marines with lower ranks. But for Marine Rear Admiral and above, the system becomes very lenient. Especially for Admiral level, except for basic official duties, the daily workload is very small. As for Marine Vice Admiral, as the backbone of Marine, their workload is the heaviest. Some civilian duties can be handed over to adjutants or subordinates, but they must go out on duty in person. So they know how to combine work and rest, and often have fun in the leisure hall. In addition to relieving work pressure, they can also get in touch with their colleagues. At this time, a group of Naval Headquarters Vice Admirals gathered in the leisure hall. We haven't been together for a long time. There's nothing we can do. Those pirates are a worry. We have to go out every day. You're unlucky. There are so many pirates in the area you're in charge of. It's not like my area, where there's almost no trouble. Nonsense, you're in charge of the Wangguo Sea, where there's basically unity, and there will definitely be fewer riots. Flying Squirrel Vice Admiral looked helpless. The other Vice Admiral smiled. At this time, another Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral walked in. Are you guys having a party? Doberman walked in and was surprised. Even you, Flying Squirrel, are here. It seems that all our Vice Admirals are here. Hearing you say that, it seems to be true. Doberman, you're the last one to appear. The Vice Admirals looked around and laughed. Seeing this, Doberman also laughed. But he suddenly thought of something, and a hint of hesitation appeared on his face. Speaking of which, there is actually one person missing. Are you talking about that man? The Flying Squirrel's eyes flickered, and he immediately thought of a figure. HMPH. That self-righteous, lawless guy simply tarnishes the justice that our Marine bears. Ghost Spider's eyes flashed coldly, and he snorted in dissatisfaction. Tisk, Ghost Spider, you are really angry. I know that you hawks have long been fed up with Luo Jia, but there is no need to slander him behind his back. Gummier shook his head and laughed. I am just stating a fact. Luo Jia, relying on his strong strength, has repeatedly disobeyed orders from his superiors and left his post many times. Do I need to slander such a bad guy? That's all right, but this guy can actually get promoted. Why? Ghost Spider's cold words echoed in the spacious room. Hearing this, the Vice Admirals of the major headquarters were silent for a while. Indeed, Luo Jia's sudden rise to the head of the branch base did catch everyone off guard. It can be said that from now on, Luo Jia is above them, and even the Admiral of the headquarters cannot order him. This huge gap really made the Vice Admirals present very dissatisfied. Defeated the Red Hair Pirates, God knows if there is an inside story. If they really defeated the Red Hair, why didn't they capture him? You know, intelligence often has a certain amount of error or water. As for how much water there is, only the top leaders may know. In fact, the verification method is also very simple. If we let that guy compete with us, we can thoroughly find out his true and false. Doberman's eyes were fierce, and he exuded a bloody breath. However, at this time, a faint voice came over and instantly resounded throughout the venue. "Oh, you are very energetic. And Doberman, Ghost Spider, you dare to plot against me behind my back, who gave you such courage?" Liang Jingru. Luo Jia's deep voice came, and the faces of everyone present changed immediately, and they all looked out the door. How could it be him? Luo Jia. When they saw Luo Jia, they were as horrified as if they had seen a ghost. Especially the three hawkish vice admirals, Doberman, Ghost Spider, and Stallo Berry. They had subconsciously taken out their weapons. It is conceivable how wary and afraid they were of Luo Jia. Of course, the most unlucky one was Huo Shaoshan. He just joined in the fun and became a bystander. But since he was closest to the door, he was also the closest to Luo Jia. So, he was under the greatest pressure. At this moment, Huo Shaoshan wanted to cry. Don't think that they gathered together to blame Luo Jia, which seemed to be a complaint and venting. But as colleagues who have worked with Luo Jia for several years, they deeply know how terrifying Luo Jia is, and they dare not easily express this emotion. Only the three hawkish people, Doberman, Ghost Spider, and Stallo Berry, who have a backer behind them, are not so afraid of Luo Jia. But in fact, when they really face Luo Jia, they are also a little guilty. Let alone anything else. Luo Jia could come to them quietly, and none of them noticed it in advance. This alone was enough to make them extremely terrified. Each of them had experienced countless battles, and their observation haki had long been trained to be extremely sharp. But even so, they still did not notice Luo Jia's arrival. In other words, Luo Jia wanted to kill them, and they had no time to react. Luo Jia. Doberman's face was ugly, and his forehead was sweating. There was no way. Luo Jia really put too much pressure on him, so he had to be on guard. Doberman, you were very brave just now. And you spoke so energetically. Do you want to be my big brother? Luo Jia stood at the door with a grim tone. Hearing Luo Jia's words, the pressure in Doberman's heart gradually disappeared, and was replaced by a trace of anger. When he thought of such a person getting promoted, and even becoming the admiral of the headquarters in the future, riding on their heads and dominating, Doberman was very indignant. And when a person is occupied by anger, he will become extremely brave. Obviously, this was the case with Doberman at this time. Humph, I've wanted to compete with you for a long time. I want to see if your strength is worthy of your position. Doberman's expression also became fierce. Then he drew his sword, and a fierce momentum instantly locked Luo Jia. Hee, it seems that you have a lot of opinions about me. Luo Jia narrowed his eyes, and then stomped his feet lightly. In an instant, the entire headquarters fortress began to shake. What is this? All the headquarters vice admirals were shaken and couldn't stand steadily, and couldn't help but exclaim. They were all strong, but at this moment they couldn't stand steadily. Who would believe this? Moreover, they felt a vast power when Luo Jia stomped his feet lightly just now. This power is the only one they have ever seen in their lives. Even the headquarters admiral is not as good as 1/10,000th. Thinking of this, they immediately felt terrified. Luo Jia, this evil god, can't be messed with. Doberman stuck his sword into the floor and managed to stabilize himself. He was also shocked by Luo Jia's power, but the arrow had to be shot. He couldn't retreat. At the moment when Luo Jia stomped his feet, almost all the Marines in the headquarters fortress fell down on the spot. They looked at the source of the shaking with astonishment. The source of this vibration seems to come from the leisure hall. Is someone fighting? Marine Fortress, Admiral's office. Aokiji was wearing an eye mask, lying on the sofa and sleeping late, drooling. Boom. But the next moment, Aokiji was thrown to the ground by a shake. What's going on? An earthquake. He took off his eye mask, looking confused. Then, Aokiji's assistant immediately pushed the door and walked in. Admiral, there seems to be a fight in the leisure hall downstairs. Then go and see what happened. Yes. At the same time, another admiral's office. Akainu was working hard, processing various documents. But the next moment, a violent shaking came, shaking all the documents on his desk. What's going on? Akainu was furious. The documents that he had sorted out with great difficulty were messed up again. Come on, go see what happened downstairs. Headquarters Fortress, Leisure Hall. The vice admiral's presence seemed to be carrying a mountain on their backs, and endless pressure came from all directions. That feeling, it was as if the air flowing around was not air, but heavy mercury. Luo Jia stood still, without making any movements. But the invisible pressure directly pressed Doberman in place, and the floor under his feet began to crack. Doberman was horrified to find that he was suppressed and could hardly lift his head, and his body could not move. Luo Jia. Doberman gritted his teeth tightly, his eyes full of bloodshot. After struggling for a long time, Doberman was finally able to move. He knew that if he continued like this, it would not be just a matter of being suppressed. He might not even have the chance to draw his sword, and would be crushed to death by Luo Jia's momentum. This is the absolute gap between the strong and the weak. Of course, it doesn't mean that Doberman is weak. In fact, it's the opposite. Doberman can definitely be ranked in the top 3 among all vice admirals. Very strong, but unfortunately, the opponent he faces has surpassed the standards of this world. But in order to maintain his dignity, Doberman can only go all out. Roar! Doberman roared and slashed a huge blow towards Luo Jia. The entire leisure hall was torn apart in an instant. As soon as Doberman made a move, he used all his strength. You have been pretending for so long, and this is it. Please, you are very weak. Facing the oncoming slash, Luo Jia simply disdained it. He was too lazy to retreat or block, and just waved his hand. The action was extremely casual, just like chasing away flies. In an instant, a strong wind blew. The slash that Doberman slashed with all his strength was instantly blown away by the strong wind. And the strong wind swept the mat, and the remaining force did not decrease, and blasted Doberman away. After crashing through several walls, Doberman managed to stabilize his body. However, at this time, his internal organs were rolling, and he finally vomited blood. Doberman's face was pale. He couldn't believe that he was so vulnerable in front of Luo Jia. Luo Jia, you dare to be cruel to your colleagues. It's simply lawless. Seeing this scene, Ghost Spider and Stallowberry looked ferocious and suddenly attacked Luo Jia from the side. They launched a shave and came behind Luo Jia in an instant. Ghost Spider swung 8 swords, and the attack was like a storm. Stallowberry's 2 swords were wrapped in armed color, slashing and tearing the air. 2 trash fish. However, facing the sneak attack of the 2, Luo Jia just chopped with his palm and easily chopped off their swords. Looking at the scattered sword fragments in front of them, Ghost Spider and Stallowberry looked dazed. Trash fish or trash fish, not even qualified to be sashimi. Luo Jia smiled and then waved his hand. The 2 immediately followed Doberman's footsteps and were blown hundreds of meters away by the strong wind. Compared with Red Hair's swordsmanship, these 3 people are really far behind. Although the moves are fancy, they are only good-looking but not practical. It's okay to deal with ordinary people, but when facing the real strong, it's simply vulnerable. For example, like Red Hair Hawkeye, they just keep attacking without any sword moves. But their attack is enough to tear the world apart and kill everything. In comparison, these 3 people are obviously very different. I don't know where Doberman got the courage to scold Red Hair during the Summit War in the original book. With his strength, Red Hair can kill him in 1 second. Not to mention Luo Jia. To deal with this kind of trash, you don't even need to use your fists. You must know that Luo Jia's fist is an invincible fist, which is specially used to fight those real strong people. As long as the opponent does not reach his level, he will only be crushed, and no one is an exception. Just like the previous fight with Red Hair, it is actually similar to the fight with the 3 of them. Anyone whose strength is only slightly weaker than Luo Jia will still be crushed by him. This is the real invincible fist. Impossible, impossible. The 3 people looked extremely ugly and trembled in their hearts. They did not expect that they would be defeated by Luo Jia in seconds after using all their strength to attack. Is the gap between them really that big? You know. Luo Jia never took the initiative to attack, but just swatted them away like chasing flies. The gap was so big that they despaired. Doberman could not accept it in his heart. Even if he could not win against the 4 emperors, there would not be such a big gap. But their battle with Luo Jia, no, can't be called a battle. It was just like a mouse provoking a lion. Even if the mouse desperately bared its teeth and claws, the lion only needed to press its claws to crush the mouse to death. I don't believe it. Doberman's eyes were bloodshot, and he roared in anger, rushing towards Luogia again like crazy. Even if you scream your throat out, you can't change the facts. Luogia shook his head. Doberman slashed out a tempest kick, and then slashed, forming a cross-shaped slash wave that tore through. But at some point, Luogia had come behind Doberman and walked slowly with him. Doberman's attack instantly disappeared, and his eyes turned white, and blood spurted out of his mouth. In order to prevent you from destroying this place again, I have to let you lie down in advance. Luogia clapped his hands, looking like he had finished the job. At this time, a large number of Marines came after hearing the news. When they saw this scene, they couldn't help swallowing their saliva and subconsciously shuddered. This Doberman Vice Admiral has been defeated. You must be kidding, that's the Vice Admiral of the headquarters. Who is that man? Do we have such a person in our headquarters? Luogia has been away from the naval headquarters for 2 years, and few of the new Marines know him. While these Marines were discussing, a Marine Rear Admiral said admiringly, "He is Luogia Vice Admiral, the current G1 Branch Base Chief and the future Headquarters Admiral." This sentence fell. The Marines' discussions suddenly stopped, and they all showed shock. Chapter 21. Luogia Vice Admiral, G1 Base Captain. Could he be the man who defeated the Red Hair Pirates, who was making a lot of noise on the sea recently? Some Marines were shocked, some Marines admired him, and some Marines were uneasy. In the field, Doberman could no longer stand up, and fell to his knees in front of Luogia with a plop, completely losing consciousness. At the moment he lost consciousness, he did not see Luogia's movements clearly. In his vision, he only saw himself attacking. Then his eyes went black and he knelt directly on the ground. He didn't know what happened. The other 2 Hawk Vice Admirals also climbed up with difficulty. They looked at their injuries and then looked at Doberman who had fallen to the ground. Their expressions were full of bitterness. This kind of desperate failure was something they had never encountered since they became Marines. At this moment, not only the 3 Hawk Vice Admirals, but even including the flying squirrel Huo Shaoshan, all the headquarters Vice Admirals were horrified. The 3 headquarters Vice Admirals were as fragile as babies in front of Luogia. Vice Admiral Doberman actually. Is this the true strength of Vice Admiral Luogia? Too scary. All the Marines were almost in an uproar. At this time, Luogia looked around the audience. I haven't been back to the headquarters for 2 years, and I guess my relationship with my colleagues has faded. In that case, I will take this opportunity today to get in touch with everyone, and it would be best if I could get along with everyone. At this point, Luogia paused for a moment, and a strange smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. As for how to get along with everyone, although I don't read much, I also know the meaning of this word. It means that I will fight with everyone present, so that we can quickly get along with everyone. After these words fell, the whole audience exploded instantly. All the Marines opened their mouths wide, collectively showing a confused expression. God, get along with everyone. Is this because I don't read much? This guy is illiterate. He is definitely a fish that slipped through the net in the education industry. Of course, what shocked them the most was that Luogia challenged all the Marines alone. Are you kidding me? Even though Luogia is very powerful, and even defeated 3 Vice Admirals easily. But it is too arrogant for one person to challenge all Marines. Does he really think he is invincible? As strong people, they are all proud. When they saw Luogia being so arrogant, they immediately became furious. One of the tall figures wearing a horn helmet came out. This Marine came to Luogia with a broad-bladed long sword in his hand, looking down at him. It's Vice Admiral Bastiu. It is said that Vice Admiral Bastiu can cut dragons with a sword, and his strength is extremely strong. Seeing Bastiu come out, countless Marines showed awe. Bastiu's slash is powerful and heavy. If he finds the right opportunity, he may defeat Luogia with one sword. That's right, as long as Bastiu can find the right opportunity. The Vice Admirals all wanted to take action. But seeing that Bastiu had come out, they adhered to the principle of fair duel and did not step forward to participate in the siege. Bastiu, please teach me. Bastiu held the dragon-slashing sword with both hands, and a condensed armed color wrapped around the blade. Yo yo yo. Isn't this the cheap Vice Admiral who was killed by Sabo with one claw? Where does he get the confidence to think he can fight me alone? Luo Jia raised his eyebrows, feeling a little amused. Actually, I suggest that you should go together. To be honest, a mere vice admiral of the headquarters can't satisfy me at all. Luo Jia spread his hands and made a sincere suggestion to all Marines. That expression that deserved a beating, everyone wanted to kill him immediately. But they were powerless. Luo Jia liked to see this kind of expression, where he wanted to kill him but couldn't do anything. Luo Jia, don't go too far. Bastiu was furious, and with a wave of the dragon slashing sword in his hand, he cut a knife mark of dozens of meters on the floor. Oh, sorry, you guys listen to my quibbling. I'm really not targeting you. It's just that I think everyone here is a tough guy. If we can all come together, I will definitely be very satisfied. After all, philosophy needs an atmosphere to make it passionate. Luo Jia smiled and explained to everyone kindly. Luo Jia. Bastiu cursed on the spot. He finally couldn't bear it anymore, holding a several-meter-long dragon-slaying knife and slashing at Luo Jia on the spot. You are very rude. Luo Jia's eyes were grim, and he clenched his 5 fingers and clamped the dragon-slaying knife. Clang! The hand and the knife collided with each other, but there was a sound of metal collision. What? Bastiu's face flushed, and he felt that his dragon-slaying knife was welded and couldn't be pulled no matter how hard he pulled. Your sword is still not hungry enough. Luo Jia grinned, and the 5 fingers holding the dragon-slaying knife squeezed slightly. A click. The extremely hard blade instantly broke and shattered all over the ground. Bastiu was horrified. This scene made him widen his eyes. He thought that Luo Jia's use of his hand to catch the knife was exaggerated enough. But he never expected that there would be something more exaggerated. He crushed his dragon-slaying knife with one hand. What an inhuman physical strength. I've said it before, you alone can't satisfy me. So, just lie down. Luo Jia crushed Bastiu's helmet, lifted him up, and slammed him to the ground. Bang! A big hole appeared on the floor, Bastiu coughed up blood, and fainted on the spot. The whole place was silent. In a second, Bastiu knelt down. At this moment, all the Marines opened their eyes wide, their mouths opened wide, as if they had seen a ghost. Even the Vice Admiral of the headquarters was stunned at this moment. Bastiu was killed in 1 second. Hey, hey, hey. Slap me twice and see if I am living in a dream. Why don't you slap me and see if I am hallucinating? This is too magical. How is this possible? That's the Vice Admiral of the headquarters. Luo Jia is also a Vice Admiral, but the difference between the two is too outrageous. Hiss. No wonder he dared to challenge all of us alone. It turns out that he was really sure to do so. The Vice Admirals of the headquarters were scalp-tingling. They had never encountered a monster like Luo Jia. Even if they faced 3 admirals, they were confident that they could fight against them for a few rounds. Even if they were defeated in the end, they would not be killed in 1 second. But when it came to Luo Jia, why was the difference so outrageous? He was killed in 1 second at any time. There was no sense of combat experience at all. No wonder Luo Jia Vice Admiral said before that one person could not satisfy him. I didn't expect that he was telling the truth. At this time, a Marine said this. A Marine next to him looked at him strangely. Brother, can't you focus on this? You said it as if you can satisfy Luo Jia Vice Admiral by going up. Humph, it's my turn to go up. Hey, my grammatical expression seems a little wrong. On the other side, a bald man emerged from the crowd. Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel took a deep breath and stepped forward resolutely. Although the Vice Admirals of the headquarters are not as arrogant as the pirates, each of them has naturally developed a kind of arrogance when they are in a high position. They allow themselves to be defeated, but they will never allow themselves to be scared and retreat. Use this as a whetstone, be careful not to break your knife. Flying Squirrel drew out his samurai sword, and suddenly a sharp momentum rose to the sky. Flying Squirrel is sharp and resolute, and he is fearless. In the original work, even in the face of the charm of the Empress, he would rather stab himself with a knife than succumb to the charm of the other party. He is a man of iron. Haha, good momentum, I hope you can satisfy me a little. Luo Jia also admired this kind of real man. HMPH, don't be so arrogant. The Flying Squirrel snorted coldly and drew his sword in an instant. A slash was like black lightning, instantly cutting through the void. He was able to completely integrate armament haki into the slash. This was a big surprise to Luo Jia. Facing the flying squirrel sword, Luo Jia showed admiration. At the same time, his 5 fingers were bent into claws and grabbed towards the slash. Bang! The two forces collided in the air, and a big hole was blown out on the floor on the spot. Luo Jia's palm was smoking, but he was unscathed. The flying squirrel was not surprised by this. At least he was not killed in seconds, which was obviously better than the previous vice admirals. Thinking of this, his momentum rose steadily, and he rushed towards Luo Jia again. The flying squirrel's swordsmanship is very strong, but the 6 styles are stronger. He instantly got behind Luo Jia with a slash, and then followed with a sword-drawing slash. A black slash flashed and slashed at Luo Jia's shoulder. Facing this sharp slash, Luo Jia quickly turned his head and smiled slightly. This smile almost scared the flying squirrel to death. Then Luo Jia put his 2 fingers together, vibrated his fingers at a high frequency, and used a painful eagle hand. The flying squirrel's samurai sword made a crisp sound of clashing, and then broke instantly. The aftermath of the slash rolled up the entire floor and swung in all directions. The Marines who were closer were all blown away by the aftermath, and there was a wailing at the scene. His fingers can be so fast, so hard, and so fierce. The flying squirrel was horrified. He never expected that the opponent's fingers would be so powerful. His slash was so sharp that even steel could be easily cut. But Luo Jia obviously did not use armament haki. With just 2 fingers and the high-frequency vibration of the fingers, not only did he break his slash, but he also broke his samurai sword in one fell swoop. What the hell is this? Why, are you surprised? Luo Jia put away the eagle hand, with a playful look on his face. What's your name for this move? The flying squirrel immediately retreated dozens of meters, his expression more solemn than ever before. You want to learn? I'll teach you. At this moment, Luo Jia was full of philosophical brilliance, like an angel fallen to the earth. I lost. The flying squirrel shook his head and retreated decisively. In fact, from the moment Luo Jia said this, he knew he had lost. Whether it was strength or mind, he lost completely. A real man can shrink and stretch, you are qualified to let me remember. The flying squirrel has good qualifications and can be slightly in Luo Jia's eyes. Unconsciously, Luo Jia has defeated 5 vice admirals of the headquarters. At this moment, the invisible pressure on Luo Jia became more and more serious. Even though they were several hundred meters apart, the Marines around him felt that they were having difficulty breathing and had a faint feeling of suffocation. I'll be next. Dalmisia stepped out resolutely. He wanted to justify the name of the vice admiral of the headquarters. He instantly entered the Madara dog pointing form, exuding a fierce aura. Shave. Dalmisia's body was like a rocket, rushing back and forth in the entire hall, as fast as lightning. The next moment, he aimed at Luo Jia's position and fired a 360-degree finger pistol, trying to beat Luo Jia into a hornet's nest. The force is there, but the accuracy is a little lacking. Luo Jia used ordinary teleportation to perfectly avoid all finger pistols. From the outside, Luo Jia did not move throughout the whole process. But those finger pistols went straight through his body and shot the ground into a hornet's nest. This scene shocked all the vice admirals in the headquarters. Under such dense finger pistol, he could still avoid it without being noticed. This speed is inhuman. Even though Dalmisia used the razor and finger pistol, his attack speed still couldn't keep up with Luo Jia. It's a pity that you are just a Madara dog after all. You will never become a husky. As if it was almost done, Luo Jia teleported to the side of Dalmisia. Bang! A palm knife fell gently, and Dalmisia's eyes went black in an instant, and finally fell to the ground and fainted. In fact, before he fainted, Luo Jia's afterimage was still left on his retina. Dalmisia didn't even notice when Luo Jia came to his side. So far, the 6th Vice Admiral of the headquarters. Dalmisia, defeated. It was not until a few seconds later that the Marines in the field gradually came back to their senses. Even Vice Admiral Dalmisia was defeated. Vice Admiral Luo Jia is too strong. If this continues, the situation will be unfavorable to our headquarters. Don't forget, Vice Admiral Luo Jia is now the representative of the G1 branch. If he continues to win, our headquarters will not be able to raise its head in front of the G1 branch in the future. Why are you panicking? There are other vice admirals in our headquarters who have not taken action yet. That's right. Vice Admiral Luo Jia wants to suppress all the vice admirals of the headquarters alone. I'm afraid even the admirals can't do this. Is he stronger than the admirals? Countless Marines in the headquarters were discussing. At this time, another vice admiral stepped forward. Hey, are you still unwilling to lower your so-called dignity and pride? Since you like to be taken turns by me one by one, then I will fulfill your wish. Luo Jia accepted all the challenges and accepted them all. The next moment, Maynard was killed in seconds. Then Huo Shaoshan came on stage, but he only lasted 2 seconds before falling at Luo Jia's feet. The 9th Vice Admiral of the headquarters, the 10th Vice Admiral of the branch, the 11th Vice Admiral of the branch. These Vice Admirals, who were usually famous in the sea, were now all defeated by Luo Jia, and almost all of them did not last more than 3 seconds. When the Marines in the headquarters saw this scene, their eyes and mouths were almost unable to close. They were shocked, until later, everyone was numb. Some Marines who were looking for death even secretly opened the market. And they were betting on how many seconds the Vice Admiral could last in Luo Jia's hands, not whether the Vice Admiral could defeat Luo Jia. Yes, it's so weird. Meanwhile, Marshal's office. When Sengoku learned about this, he held his head with both hands on the spot, with a headache on his face. He didn't expect Luo Jia to be so troublesome, and he had made such a big moth before he officially took office as the branch-base chief. For a moment, Sengoku regretted not listening to Kizaru's advice. Now, things became difficult. But on second thought, the stronger Luo Jia showed, the more correct his decision was. If such a strong man was allowed to become a pirate, Sengoku shuddered at the terrible consequences. Fortunately, Luo Jia was taken by our marine first. As long as we win him over, he will definitely become the pillar of marine in the future. Besides, it's a waste of youth if you don't act frivolously. After he passes puberty, he will probably become more stable in the future. Thinking of this, Sengoku smiled with relief. With the steady Luo Jia in charge, Marine may be able to see all the pirates wiped out in his lifetime. In the leisure hall, Luo Jia stood with his arms folded across his chest, looking down at the whole audience. At this point in the battle, almost all the vice admirals of the headquarters had already admitted defeat. Although they were bitter, they knew that they were no match for Luo Jia. They stood up for one reason, to protect their dignity. Second, to find out Luo Jia's background. Third, they simply couldn't stand Luo Jia's behavior. The result was obvious, and they all suffered the most desperate failure in their lives. Several vice admirals in the headquarters almost lost their self-confidence. It is estimated that Luo Jia will become a shadow in their hearts that will never go away. As for the Marines below the Vice Admiral, they also know their own limitations, and no one dares to challenge him. In fact, there are not many Vice Admirals in the headquarters. Each of them can only hold out for 1 or 2 seconds before retreating. Soon, all of them were taken turns. Just after 5 minutes, the last Vice Admiral of the headquarters finally announced his defeat. There was no other way. Only when they really faced Luo Jia, they knew what great terror was. It was already very good that this Vice Admiral of the headquarters was not knocked unconscious. Now he was not only convinced by Luo Jia, but also a little afraid of him. Not only him, but all the Vice Admirals were also convinced. The eyes they looked at Luo Jia also changed from resentment at the beginning to awe. After all, this is a world where the strong are respected. Since Luo Jia's strength is above them, he will naturally get the treatment he deserves. After a while, the crowds around also woke up from their numbness. Everyone looked at each other and felt that today was too magical. All Marine Vice Admirals were defeated by one person. This simply overturned their 3 views. They were directly torn apart. There is no doubt that Luo Jia is already ranked first among Marine Vice Admirals at this time. It is estimated that only the hero Garp can match Luo Jia. Perhaps Luo Jia's strength is already comparable to Marine Admiral. As soon as this idea came out, it took root in everyone's mind and could not be shaken off. Of course, there are still a few people who certainly don't believe it. After all, Admiral is the highest combat power of Marine, and is a godlike existence in everyone's mind. Luo Jia may be strong, but Admiral will definitely be stronger. The voices of discussion continued to come, but Luo Jia seemed to be unheard. At this time, an angry voice suddenly came into the field. What are you all doing? As this voice fell, a terrifying high temperature spread instantly. All the Marines who were discussing shut up instantly, stood up straight immediately, and showed nervousness on their faces. I saw a burly man wearing a justice robe walked in. It was Marine Admiral Akainu. At this moment, everyone was silent, and the whole hall was silent instantly. Then, all the Marines saluted Akainu respectfully. Sakazuki Admiral. Akainu ignored everyone and looked at the Vice Admirals. What do you guys think of Naval Headquarters? As the Vice Admiral of the headquarters, you actually led a fight, disregarded military regulations, and disregarded the law. Are you trying to rebel? Akainu yelled at everyone, his eyes almost wanting to skin everyone alive. A group of people fighting collectively, such a ridiculous thing, actually happened in Naval Headquarters. How could Akainu not be furious? The Vice Admirals looked at each other, their expressions were a little ashamed and embarrassed. Fighting collectively is indeed a serious violation of military regulations. So they were also very guilty and did not dare to contradict Akainu. After Akainu severely reprimanded the Vice Admirals, he turned his head and looked at Luo Jia. Looking at the other party's indifferent expression, Akainu was about to be furious. And according to his understanding, all the disputes were caused by Luo Jia. In his opinion, Luo Jia was a black sheep who used the name of Marine to do pirate behavior. Such a person was a devil who wanted nothing but chaos in the world, and had no justice in his heart. Akainu was originally dissatisfied with Luo Jia's promotion. Now, the other party was directly rebelling this time. Even Vice Admiral Garp had never done such a ridiculous thing as a group fight. But Luo Jia did it, and did it in front of everyone, openly. Is there still the king's law? Is there still the law? Such a person, let alone being the chief of the branch base, can't even be an ordinary Marine. Anyway, in Akainu's mind, Luo Jia has been listed as a pseudo-Marine like the 7 warlords of the sea. He would never recognize Luo Jia's identity. This time, Akainu, who could no longer bear it, decided to teach Luo Jia a lesson. Akainu walked up to Luo Jia, his eyes grim. Luo Jia, since you started this, you should bear the consequences. Consequences? What consequences? I'm just trying to get in touch with my colleagues. What kind of mistake did I make? Luo Jia crossed his arms and smiled. Luo Jia also knew Akainu and had long been dissatisfied with him. So Luo Jia was too lazy to perfunctorily deal with him, and directly put on a posture of whatever you want. If Akainu is unhappy, Luo Jia welcomes him to find fault. Anyway, he will not admit his fault in this matter. And Luo Jia's shameless words made everyone open their mouths on the spot. It was obviously you who started the dispute. How come you pushed all the responsibility in a blink of an eye? Still getting in touch? Get in touch with your sister. Don't be so shameless. Luo Jia's lies stunned Akainu instantly. What does this mean? Do you think I'm blind, or do you think I'm stupid? Luo Jia. Thinking of this, Akainu instantly became furious. As Akainu became furious, the entire hall immediately turned into a high-temperature furnace. I always thought you were just a borer of the Marine, but I didn't expect you to be a scum. Akainu's fist began to drip magma, and the terrifying high temperature spread throughout the venue. At this moment, 90% of the Marines were already sweating profusely, unable to resist the heat, and left the hall one after another. Only the Marine Vice Admirals remained inside, but their faces also showed tension. Ha ha, thank you for the compliment. I didn't expect that I have such a great deal of weight in your heart. Luo Jia laughed heartily, completely ignoring the heat radiating from Akainu. You. Akainu gritted his teeth, as if he was holding back a breath of bad air in his chest, unable to spit it out or swallow it, and felt extremely disgusted. He had been an admiral for so long, but this was the first time someone dared to lie to him with open eyes. And the most infuriating thing was that the other party was smiling the whole time, and simply didn't take him, the admiral, seriously at all. This made Akainu's face flush, and his violent emotions could no longer be suppressed. The vice admirals who originally wanted to be peacemakers were also dumbfounded when they saw this scene. They had never expected that Luo Jia would be so disrespectful to Akainu. Feeling Akainu's raging anger, the vice admirals all felt a little palpitation. Because at this time, Akainu seemed like a barrel of explosives, which would explode at any time. Today, I will teach you a lesson for a black sheep like you. While speaking, half of Akainu's body had turned into terrifying magma. The next moment, Akainu punched Luo Jia. He was now so angry that he didn't care that this was the headquarters fortress. Before the punch landed, the terrifying high temperature had already hit him. If you can start a fight, don't beep. I'm waiting for you. Luo Jia's eyes lit up, and then he punched out. Boom. The air was rippled as the fists collided. But this collision surprised everyone. Akainu was blown up by Luo Jia's casual punch. What kind of power is this? Akainu recondensed his body, the anger in his heart dissipated, and he immediately woke up. Just now he was firing at full power. But Luo Jia could actually blow him up directly. This guy, is he so strong? Akainu was a little shocked. Although Kizaru told him privately that Luo Jia was very strong. But when he thought of Kizaru's carelessness and his ambiguous relationship with Luo Jia, Akainu was a little skeptical. But when he tried his best and was still blown up by Luo Jia with one punch, he believed it. However, Akainu still refused to admit defeat and punched Luo Jia again. However, the ending did not change at all. He was still blown up by Luo Jia lightly. Is it a surprise? Is it a surprise? Looking at Akainu with an incredible face, Luo Jia grinned. Don't worry, there are bigger surprises to come. Then, Luo Jia clenched his fist with one hand and punched Akainu not far away. A shock wave came through, and Akainu subconsciously blocked it. But, when he touched the shock wave, Akainu's face changed wildly. He only felt a devastating force coming, and he couldn't even hum, and the whole person was blown up again. And this time, Akainu was blasted out of the fortress and smashed outside the square. A mushroom cloud slowly rose up, almost destroying the entire square. This scene stunned all the Marines. What happened? How could mushrooms grow for no reason? The vice admirals almost popped their eyes out when they saw this scene. If Akainu was hit by Luo Jia twice before, it could be said that he was careless. Then this time, mushrooms were grown by a punch, which was a naked crushing. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they would never believe it. Humans can actually punch like a nuclear explosion. This kind of fantasy thing can probably only be done by the legendary ancient weapon. At the same time, they also realized why Luo Jia was promoted to base commander and even had many privileges. It turned out that it was because of the other party's terrifying strength. So he is so strong. After the vice admirals understood it, they all smiled bitterly. Thinking of the previous battle, Luo Jia and them were probably just playing around. It was really as the other party said, purely to keep in touch with everyone. If Luo Jia went all out, the entire Marineford would probably be gone. Oh, this Sakazuki is too weak, he was blown up by me with just one punch. Luo Jia came to the hole in the center of the mushroom cloud, looked at the bottomless hole, and wiped his sweat with a guilty conscience. Akainu wouldn't really be killed by his punch. No way, no way. You really can't blame me, I have been very restrained, and I only used 10% of my strength throughout the whole process. Could it be that this guy wants to touch me? If people knew that Luo Jia only used 10% of his strength in this punch, they would probably doubt their lives. Today, even if Luo Jia only uses 10% of his strength, his power is enough to surpass the peak Whitebeard. So he usually restrains himself, because he is afraid that if he can't control his strength well, he will collapse the entire pirate world. And what bothers Luo Jia the most is that his strength is growing every moment. If he controls to 10% of his strength today, he may have to control it to half of his strength after a while. At least for this world, Luo Jia cannot use more than 50% of his strength. Otherwise, the planet will not be able to withstand it and will explode on the spot. On the other side, Luo Jia's nuclear explosion also shook the entire naval headquarters. Luo Jia had fought in the leisure hall before, and although the noise was not small, everyone could at least accept it. But this time the noise of growing mushrooms was too big. so big that it instantly alarmed the entire naval headquarters. A moment later, the first person to rush to the scene was Kizaru. Seeing the square disappearing in front of him and a bottomless pit with green smoke, Kizaru's face twitched on the spot. Luo Jia is really messing around, and Sakazuki won't be killed. Thinking of this, Kizaru's face began to become serious. Oh la la, this is really incredible. Another figure approached. It was Admiral of Headquarters Aokiji. Aokiji looked at the disappearing square and Luo Jia, who was acting weird in front of him, and a headache appeared on his face. To be honest, he and Luo Jia have a good relationship. So Aokiji has always been more fond of Luo Jia. Even if there was a fight in the leisure hall before, he turned a blind eye. But now it's good. The other side destroyed the fortress square and beat Akainu to the point of life or death. This time he couldn't help even if he wanted to. Ha ha ha, Luo Jia is really good, he is worthy of being my old friend. I hope Sakazuki is alive. Garp looked at the square disappearing in front of him, eating senbei and laughing heartily. Garp, you old man, shut up. Beside him, Sengoku looked ugly and shouted loudly, you are still joking at this time. After scolding Garp, Sengoku couldn't help but hold his forehead, showing the same headache as Aokiji. He has tried his best to avoid conflicts between Luo Jia and the Marine Hawks, and has issued many instructions for this purpose, specifically to restrain the two. But unfortunately, Luo Jia and Akainu didn't care at all. The two eventually broke out in conflict and made such a big noise. Alas, being this Marine Marshal is tiring. At this moment, at the bottom of the huge pit, the rolling magma slowly reorganized and finally condensed into Akainu's body. Cough cough cough. Luo Jia, that fool. Akainu kept coughing up blood, and at least half of his bones had been broken. Luckily Luo Jia didn't have armament haki, otherwise Akainu would have died long ago. Even if the elementalization offset 90% of the damage, the extra 10% of the damage almost killed him. Akainu looked up at the sky with difficulty, and estimated that he was about 1,000 meters away from the ground. At this time, Akainu also saw Luo Jia above him. He clenched his fists tightly, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. When a person is dominated by anger, his reason will be temporarily blinded. Obviously, Akainu has forgotten the horror of Luo Jia, and rushed towards him again with terrible murderous intent. When Akainu rushed out of the hole, several figures came instantly and directly blocked Luo Jia and Akainu. Sakazuki, stop it. That's enough. As high-ranking Marines, do you still have any military discipline in your eyes? These figures are Aokiji, Kizaru, Garp, and Sengoku. Although Garp has been joking, he still has a sense of propriety in his heart. He can't just watch the two continue to fight. If they continue to fight like this, the entire Marineford will be sunk before Akainu falls. Aokiji and Garp stopped Luo Jia, while Kizaru and Sengoku stopped Akainu. The four people separated the two. I cooperate, I cooperate. Luo Jia raised his hands to show that he would not attack again, so that everyone could rest assured. But even so, Sengoku, Kizaru and others were very afraid of Luo Jia, fearing that he would suddenly attack and even beat them together. Why are you stopping me? That guy is not worthy of being a Marine at all. I am just cleaning up the bad apples. Akainu coughed up blood again in anger and roared at Kizaru Sengoku in front of him. It was obvious that Akainu had fallen into a state of rampage. Sengoku and Kizaru held him tightly and looked at Akainu with a serious face. Akainu was stared at by the two people like this, and his rampage mood gradually calmed down. However, Akainu's eyes looking at Luo Jia were still full of anger. Sakazuki, even if Luo Jia is wrong, I have to deal with it. You made the decision without asking me. Don't you despise military discipline? Sengoku was annoyed and shouted at Akainu. He had issued an order before that anything about Luo Jia must be asked in advance or handled by him personally. No one can disobey this order. Although Luo Jia's reckless behavior made Sengoku very angry, what really made him most angry was Akainu. Just like a bad person, if he does a good thing one day, he may be praised by others. But if a good person does a bad thing one day, he will be criticized by thousands of people. In Sengoku's opinion, Luo Jia has always been a bad boy, and Akainu has always been a Marine representative. Therefore, he will be more tolerant of Luogia and more strict with Akainu. Therefore, Akainu knew that the order had been implemented, but he still insisted on making trouble for Luogia. This behavior did not take him, the marshal, to heart at all. How can a person like Luogia be qualified to be a Marine? Akainu was a little indignant. Since he joined the Marine, he has not done anything serious. He only knows how to disobey orders and trample on military discipline all day long. This time it's even worse. He actually had a fight in the headquarters. This is simply a rebellion. Sakazuki, shut up. Sengoku was annoyed and couldn't help but scold him again. Although Luogia was wrong in this matter, Akainu's confrontation with him in person made him extremely embarrassed. And Sengoku was also very troubled. What should he do to calm this matter down? Oh, don't be so angry, it's all a misunderstanding. Marshal Sengoku, don't blame Sakazuki too much. Although Sakazuki was indeed more impulsive in this matter, I am a generous person and will not hold him responsible. Luogia stood up at this time and took the initiative to persuade Sengoku. This guy, is he still shameless? Aokiji and Garp held their foreheads. They couldn't bear to look at Luogia's shameless face. Luogia, shut up. You are the one who caused all this. Just stay here and be quiet. Sengoku immediately turned around and yelled at Luogia. Don't get angry, be careful of high blood pressure. Luogia comforted Sengoku while saying to Akainu, Sakazuki, how do you deal with this matter today? You can make a decision, and I will take care of it. Okay, you said it, don't regret it later. Akainu's eyes were cold. Since first joined the Marine, I have made countless military achievements to get the position of Admiral. Although you have made many military achievements, they are not enough to promote you to the position of Branch Base Chief. Hehe, from what you said, you mean that I am not qualified to be the Branch Base Chief. Listening to Akainu's words, Luogia suddenly laughed. Yes, unless you have made great military achievements that leave me speechless, I will not recognize you. If Marshal Sengoku insists on his own way, I will appeal to the world government and completely dismiss you. Akainu's words immediately made Sengoku's face completely dark. However, Akainu's words were secretly supported by many Marines, especially those vice admirals. Although they admire Luogia's strength, they are still dissatisfied with Luogia's appointment as the branch base chief. Without sufficient military merits and qualifications, no matter how strong the strength is, they will not recognize it. Hehe, wouldn't it be over if you said so earlier? Why do so many tricks? Luogia shook his head helplessly. Is Hina-chan here? Luogia shouted to the crowd, please step out. Hina is here, sir. Then, Hina came to the ruins of the square under the gaze of everyone. Although she didn't know what Luogia asked her to do, she still obeyed the order and walked out. Because obeying orders is the duty of a soldier, she doesn't want to be like her boss. Good guy, she didn't forget to step on her boss at this time. If Luogia knew her thoughts, she would probably be beaten up again tonight. Akainu and the others also looked weird. Why call a woman over in this situation? Hina, I want to ask, how many military merits do I need to be qualified to be the branch base chief? Luogia asked Hina, since you only defeated the red hair pirates before, but did not capture or annihilate them, you have only accumulated second-class military merits. And to be the branch base chief, you need at least first-class military merits. Hina was also very surprised why Luogia asked this, but she still answered respectfully. Oh, then if I want to get first-class military merits, what conditions and ways do I need to achieve it? Luogia touched his chin and asked Hina again. There are two ways. The first is to make good achievements in military construction such as training, duty, and scientific research, and gradually improve personal military merits and qualifications. The second way is to quickly obtain military merits and qualifications by annihilating or capturing pirates. Hina immediately gave two ways to improve military merits. In fact, this is also information known by all Marines. Well, the first way has the lowest risk, but the efficiency is slower. As for the second way, the risk is the highest, but at the same time the efficiency is the most obvious. I understand. Luogia pondered for a moment and seemed to have made a decision. Everyone was also very strange at first, but when Hina finished speaking, they seemed to notice something was wrong. Could it be that Luo Jia wanted to implement the second plan? But even if the second plan is implemented, in order to accumulate a lot of military merits in a short period of time, a large number of pirates must be captured or annihilated. Unless it is the level of 4 emperors. 4 emperors. When everyone present thought of this, they all showed a trace of shock. Would Luo Jia not want to touch the 4 emperors? Well, Hina-chan, go prepare the boat first, we'll leave for New World now. Luo Jia smiled slightly. Destroy a few 4 emperors, the military merit should be enough. Boom. The words were so light, but it was like a thunder. Countless people's heads were buzzing, and they all showed a look of seeing a ghost. At this moment, the whole place was silent. Hey, those are the 4 emperors. Don't say it so lightly, okay. Even the angry Akainu was shocked by Luo Jia's words. Ah la la, Luo Jia is not kidding, right? Aokiji's face was a little confused. Destroy the 4 emperors, it's so scary. Kizaru was also confused. Hey, Luo Jia, are you serious? Garp put down the senbei, and his face began to become serious. Only Sengoku lowered his head and pondered, his eyes flickering. He knew Luo Jia's background well, so of course he knew that the other party was not bragging. If Luo Jia really destroyed the 4 emperors, even just one, it would be enough to make his military merits soar. And this is also a great thing for Marine. Then Akainu, when we meet next time, you have to call me the base commander. Luo Jia grinned at Akainu. At this moment, even Akainu was rarely silent. Then, Luo Jia looked at Hina, who was in a daze. After all, the shock just now was too great, and Hina had not recovered yet. Destroy the 4 emperors. Is it so exciting? And from what Luo Jia said, it seems that there is more than 4 emperors, and it seems that all 4 emperors are to be destroyed. This kind of person is either a deep well ice, or has absolute self-confidence. No matter which one, the premise must be great courage and courage. Hina wanted to dissuade Luo Jia from being impulsive, but when she thought of the power Luo Jia showed, Hina was choked on the spot. I'll prepare it now. Go. Luo Jia waved his hand. Yes, sir. After Hina saluted Luo Jia, she turned and rushed into the crowd to perform the mission. The whole audience was still silent. Everyone was immersed in shock and couldn't wake up for a long time. Before leaving, I have something to say to Akainu. At this time, Luo Jia turned and looked at Akainu. Hearing this, Sengoku and Garp's expressions tightened, and they thought Luo Jia was going to do something. What do you want to say? Just say it. Akainu, on the other hand, was very open-minded. Anyway, his goal had been achieved, and there was no need to target Luo Jia blindly. Okay, then don't blame me for speaking bluntly. The reason you have been targeting me is that you want to establish your own prestige and face. Listen to my advice, face is virtual. You are different from red hair, you can't grasp it. You had a conflict with me because of face. Did you feel uncomfortable in the end? Originally, you were the high and mighty admiral, but now, why did you make yourself so embarrassed? So, I still hope you will learn from your mistakes. Luo Jia left these words earnestly, and then disappeared. And Akainu also fell into deep thought. Sengoku-san, should we stop him? Aokiji asked Sengoku. Kizaru shook his head. I think Luo Jia dared to issue such a military order, and he must have a good idea in his heart. However, no matter whether Luo Jia succeeds in the end or not, one thing is certain, the next new world will usher in unprecedented changes. For a moment, the atmosphere in the field was suppressed. Sengoku's eyes were deep, and I don't know what he was thinking in his heart. Ha ha ha, but to be honest, Luo Jia really has the style of the old man in the past, and he really deserves to be my friend regardless of age. At this time, Garp started to make jokes without any form. Pooh. Sengoku's forehead was throbbing with veins, and he snatched Garp's senbei and ate it all in one bite. Sengoku, you guy. Garp was stunned and could only watch Sengoku leave. Everyone, go away. Aokiji dispersed the crowd of onlookers, and the matter came to an end for the time being. On the other side, after Sengoku returned to his office, he dialed a Den Den Mushi. As for the other end of the Den Den Mushi, it was the 5 elders who connected the powers. Mashimoshi, I'm Marshal Sengoku, I have something urgent to report to you. Soon, Sengoku told the whole story. This matter was completely out of his control. It involved the 4 emperors, and it was no longer something he could decide at will. In the original work, Marine decided to take action against Whitebeard with the permission of the 5 elders. After all, just to mobilize the 7 warlords of the sea, the world government must come forward. After a moment of silence, the 5 elders replied. Sengoku, just wait and see. I understand. Sengoku responded and hung up the Den Den Mushi. At the same time, Pengu City, between powers. It's good to let Luogia stir up the water of New World. This will be beneficial to our development. Yes, if Luogia really catches the 4 emperors, this will undoubtedly be the best news for us. The 5 elders talked to each other, and their expressions were quite relaxed. In their opinion, Luogia works for Marine and world government, so he is a good comrade. For such a good comrade, 5 elders will of course fully support. As expected, the news that Luogia wants to wipe out 4 emperors. Within a few days, it spread throughout the sea. Even though this happened in naval headquarters, Sengoku could not completely block the news. After all, in addition to Marine, there are also many spies in naval headquarters. When this news spread, the whole new world was boiling. All kinds of doubts, fears, and shouting voices spread throughout the new world. Of course, the 4 emperors' pirates, who were the first to bear the brunt, expressed disdain on the surface, but secretly had been on high alert. After all, the enemy they will face in the future is a terrifying guy that even red hair cannot defeat. 1 month later, New World, G1 Branch Base. In the top floor office, Luogia was sitting on a chair, holding a copy of Intimate Paradise in his hand, reading with great interest. After a series of events, Luogia received another system evaluation reward. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving the first personal achievement, suppressing all Marine Vice Admirals. Ding! Congratulations to the host for achieving the second personal achievement, defeating Akainu. System evaluation. Perfect. Ding! Reward hosts devoted card +1. Ding! Reward hosts brainwashing card +1. Ding! Reward hosts hypnosis card +1. Ding! Reward hosts potential card +1. Ding! Reward hosts charm card +1. Ding! Life limiter release progress 9%. Without saying anything, Luogia used the charm card on himself on the spot. In an instant, Luogia, who originally had a somewhat delicate appearance, suddenly became handsome. Even his temperament became more attractive from being ordinary at the beginning. Of course, it is mainly to attract women. Well, this charm card is pretty good. I will try it out with Hina tonight. Looking at himself in the mirror, Luogia showed a satisfied look. It has been almost a month since I came to New World. Now that the system reward has arrived, I should start the next plan. Luogia put down the mirror and bowed his head in thought. It has been a month since I came to G1 base. Since Luogia handed over his duties to Hina, he is very idle every day. Every day, he is either watching Intimate Paradise or exercising with Hina. So, Luogia almost forgot the military order he had signed before. However, because the system reward arrived today, Luogia suddenly remembered this matter. But in a moment, Luogia put the military order behind him and thought of another thing. Some time ago, in order to help Luogia share the work pressure, Sengoku sent another female adjutant to help him. Of course, Sengoku's real intention may be more than that. Sengoku probably didn't trust Luogia, so he sent a female adjutant, probably to supervise him. And the name of this female adjutant is Ain. Ain is one of Zephyr's students, and she is a person who has eaten the fruit of retrogression. Today's Zephyr has not been completely disappointed with Marine, and is still training recruits in the recruit camp. And Ain has just graduated from the recruit camp and is currently a major in the Marine. I still have a die-hard card here, which can be used on Ain. Luogia touched his chin and showed a thoughtful look. According to the system's instructions, brainwashing cards and hypnosis cards need to be subtly influenced for a long time before they can slowly show their effects. And the die-hard card is very simple, which can directly make Ain fall in love with Luogia, and the efficiency is very significant. Luogia is quite familiar with the character of Ain. The point is that she is also a beautiful woman. It's worth consuming a card. So after a moment of hesitation, Luo Jia asked Hina to find Ain. After a while, a blue-haired girl came to the door of Luo Jia's office with a hint of trepidation. Because she was transferred to be Luo Jia's new adjutant, her position was changed from major to colonel. 2 promotions in a row. However, she always held a respectful attitude towards Luo Jia. After all, the fight at the naval headquarters last month was still vivid in her mind. Therefore, facing the terrifying existence of Luo Jia, Ain was also very nervous. She took a deep breath and knocked on the door gently. "Come in." Hearing the voice from inside the door, Ain immediately pushed the door open. When Ain walked into the room, her eyes suddenly lit up, and then her face turned red. Because at this moment, a handsome young man was lying lazily on the sofa. For some reason, Luo Jia seemed to be more beautiful today than before. The other party seemed to exude a special charm, which made Ain blush for a while and her heartbeat accelerated. After a little daze, Ain couldn't help asking, "May I ask what the chief wants to see me about?" "Ain, you have been here for a month. How is it, are you still adapting to the work?" Luo Jia smiled slightly. "Not bad." Ain nodded. "Don't be so reserved, sit down and talk." Luo Jia patted the sofa, motioning Ain to sit down and talk. At this time, Ain and Luo Jia looked at each other closely, and her heartbeat suddenly accelerated again. So handsome. This was the only thought in her mind. Why didn't she realize that Luo Jia would be so handsome and so charming before? Luo Jia's handsomeness and temperament are definitely the most perfect she has ever seen. Moreover, the other party also exudes a special charm. This is what makes Ain feel amazing all the time. Looking at what Ain has seen in his life, there is absolutely no one who can compare with Luo Jia in terms of appearance and charm. Maybe there is also a female emperor, but she is a woman after all, and there is no comparison at all. Ain arrived at a very good time, just in time for Luo Jia to finish push-ups. So, Luo Jia was shirtless at this time, full of male hormones. Seeing this scene, Ain's cheeks were hot and his head was a little dizzy. Ain hurriedly lowered his head, not daring to look directly at Luo Jia again, and his tone was very flustered. "I didn't mean it. Commander Luo Jia, I'm very sorry, I was rude just now." Ain, who finally reacted, immediately apologized and saluted Luo Jia. At the same time, she quickly suppressed her emotions, and her pretty face quickly returned to calm. However, the waves in her heart could not be calmed down in a short time. "Don't be nervous, come and sit here. I don't eat people." Luo Jia patted the sofa again and motioned her to sit down again. "Yes." Ain followed the arrangement and sat on the sofa obediently. "That's right." Luo Jia showed a satisfied smile, and then his eyes flickered. "I'm very interested in you. Your ability seems to be the Paramesha reversal fruit." Ain replied respectfully. "Yes, sir." Luo Jia smiled and said, "Well, can you demonstrate your ability?" "Yes." Ain was slightly surprised, and then immediately followed the order. After all, Luo Jia is her superior, and it is normal to want to know her ability. Then, Ain put her hand on the table. "My ability can make the things I touch go back 12 years, and touching them multiple times can directly erase them." As soon as the voice fell, Ain immediately activated her ability. I saw her slender hands with peach flames, which instantly wrapped the sofa. Then, under Luo Jia's astonished gaze, the table immediately turned back into a piece of wood. Time is indeed mysterious and unpredictable. This is already the power of rules. Luo Jia was very amazed. If Ain's fruit ability is developed deeply enough and then trained with a strong body of physical skills, it will definitely be invincible when combined. No wonder. Ion only appeared in the movie, and she disappeared in the end. In the final analysis, her ability is too heaven-defying. If she grows to the Shichibukai level, she can pose a threat to the Admiral level. For example, Akainu's magma power and Aokiji's freezing power will basically disappear once they are reversed. In theory, this ability is indeed unsolvable. Seeing Luo Jia's astonished expression, Ion smiled secretly, then lifted the ability and restored the table to its original state. Seeing this magical scene, Luo Jia was amazed. Even he couldn't control time, but the other party could control the branch of time with the help of Devil Fruit. I have to say, Devil Fruit is really like a bug. Use your ability on me and let me feel the effect myself. Luo Jia suddenly said to Ion. What? Hearing this, Ain was stunned. This. Sir, although my ability can be removed, it is also very dangerous. It is best not to try it. It doesn't matter, I am very strong, and a mere time reversal can't stop me. I just want to feel this kind of power. Luo Jia smiled slightly, her face full of confidence. Then. I really want to start. Ain hesitated for a long time, put his hand on Luo Jia's chest, and said in a trembling voice. Come on, activate your ability and let me feel it. Luo Jia closed her eyes, but her heart was full of curiosity about her ability. Then. Okay, seeing Luo Jia's insistence, Ain had no choice but to activate his ability. The next moment, the peach-colored flame wrapped Luo Jia's body. But when the peach-colored flame touched the skin, Luo Jia's body suddenly resisted violently. Buzz. A muffled sound. The peach-colored flame that enveloped his body was forcibly dispelled by a vast force. At this moment, Luo Jia was like a universe, and no force could shake it. This was also the first time that Luo Jia fully revealed his hidden power. This power was as majestic as a god, standing at the top of all creatures. Ain, who was standing next to him, almost knelt down. What kind of power is this? The power revealed by Luo Jia shocked Ain. Under this power, Ain felt as small as dust, and Luo Jia in front of him was like a god in meditation. Sure enough, my physique is difficult to shake even time. Luo Jia slowly opened his eyes and sighed. In fact, Luo Jia had never been able to measure the specific power of himself who broke the body limiter, and could only guess it based on his feelings. But today, he had a new understanding of his strong physique. Well, Ain, you did a good job, I am very satisfied. So in order to reward you, I decided to give you a gift. After that, Luo Jia used the devoted card on Ain. An invisible force enveloped Ain, and her eyes froze. Then Ain's mind went blank, and countless sweet memories with Luo Jia emerged and occupied her mind. After a moment, Ain came back to her senses, but the way she looked at Luo Jia was completely different from before. Her eyes were full of love and tenderness, as if Luo Jia was the only one in the world. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.